Hokage I can fully level up with one click. Chapter 341 to 360. Chapter 341 absolutely can't kill him. Wu Wei, what are you doing? The old man with a hoarse face shouted in a deep voice. The old voice, like thunder, awakened Wu Wei in his absence. The shock in his pupils quickly disappeared, and he snorted coldly. He looked at Kimimaro and Orochimaru and shouted sharply, I advise you, don't move around casually, or I will kill your leader. The awe-inspiring voice, with an undeniable taste, instantly attracted everyone's attention. Little devil, you scared Lao Su just now, and now you will cut me a knife. A one-eyed man took the lead, came behind Kimimaro, smiled grimly, raised the kunai in his hand, and went straight to Kimimaro. The younger generation chopped off. If this blow really hits, it will definitely splatter a few steps with blood and directly suffer heavy damage. This violent scene made Jonan's face show inexplicable eagerness for those wandering ninjas who had suffered under Kimimaro just now. It seems that with this blow, all the evil they have endured can be spit out. However, this idea just sprouted in their minds. A cold light shot out one step ahead of the others, like a training horse, without any bells and whistles, and headed towards the one-eyed man. PFF'd. Blood spurted out like fireworks. The huge head was thrown into the air under the eyes of many astonished people. The next moment, before they could react, Kimimaro clasped his hands together. Shikatsumyaku, dead bone pulse, dance of early fern. Puff. The sound of the air being torn apart suddenly reverberated, and the bones turned into spears and shot out from Kimimaro's body. The violent blow, at a close distance, made it impossible to hide. What's more, they never imagined that Kimimaro would dare to shoot violently when there were hostages in hand. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who wants to believe it? However, the thought of astonishment emerged, and the violent scene instantly penetrated the dozens of people who approached. Outsiders were still holding a teasing mentality, eyeing those who wanted to bring down Kimimaro, but at the same time their expressions changed drastically. They all pulled away and quickly retreated. Bastard, hurry up and let him stop, or I will kill you. Wu Wei's face changed dramatically, and he took out a kuugia around Shin Yu's neck with his backhand. These are his future help, but also the foundation of the ninja world. However, now that Kimimaro is a violent one, and he kills 1/10, how can he accept it? Hee, you use that guy to blackmail us, so save a little bit. Orochimaru, who had been watching, licked his tongue and showed a sly smile. You may be able to kill us, but definitely not him. Looking at the slender orangutan Yuhi's tongue, the expressions of many people in the field suddenly changed. In their eyes, being able to spit out a tongue more than 10 centimeters long is too terrifying. This is absolutely impossible for people to do. However, the words that disregarded the death of his companions shook people's nerves even more. Who are you? Wu Wei's face changed slightly, thinking of the scene where he seemed to be stared at by a lone wolf just now. His heart was still a little hairy. After all, the combination in front of him is really weird. A kid with an amazing keke genkai, a weird, long-tongued man who seems to have nothing to do with him. There is also a boy who is called the leader of Akatsuki, but gives a strange feeling. This made Wu Wei a little unsure. Wu Wei, what are you still doing? Aren't they just 3 unknown guys? The horse-faced old man's face sank, and he shouted angrily, no matter how strong he is imprisoned by us, without chakra. What is the difference between him and a cripple? It will be better if you don't kill now. Quote. Don't forget, our grass ninja village is different now. With that thing, even if the 5 major ninja villages come, they will not be afraid, let alone them. If you kill them, you will be 100. Wu Wei was stunned for a moment, and then his pupils flashed a ruthless color, just as the old horse-faced old man said, no matter what his origins are. Once you die, everything will end. Thinking of this, Wu Wei's eyes burst into a ruthless color. His right hand suddenly clenched Kuwu, and cut it directly towards Uchiha Chinyu's neck. Boy, blame it, you are too arrogant, even your companions can't save you. But don't worry, they'll be with you soon. A hysterical roar, as if to give indomitable courage. When the crisp metal collision sound resounded suddenly, the huge anti-shock force made Wu Wei's mouth startled, and he took a few steps back. Seeing that crackling thunder light surged out of Chinyu's body like a frenzy, showing disbelief on his face. How can he use chakra? The old man's expression changed drastically. For them, whether it is the grass-hidden confinement technique or the Kaiden fire style heavenly prison technique, it is their confidence. Especially the latter, once an ordinary person is recruited, as long as he uses chakra, his whole body will burn like a fire. Not to mention fighting, there is no way to even take normal actions. Not to mention, cast such a powerful Raiden thunder-style chakra. Is it Sage Art chakra? Orochimaru smiled playfully. This kid is not something you can mess with. Sage Art. The expressions of everyone present changed drastically. In their perception, Sage Art is not something that ordinary people can have. Wu Wei's expression also changed, and he shouted anxiously, "Who are you?" However, before he could get the answer, the four elders burst into tyrannical chakra fluctuations again and roared in unison. Wu Wei, don't care who he is, we will imprison him and use our cards to kill him. Kusen for Jinchuriki column imprisonment technique. The four of them merged with their two fingers again, moving towards Chinyu a little bit in the air. The chakra that poured out, turned into an invisible shackle, and quickly enveloped Chinyu. In the face of the violent blow from the four elders, Wu Wei's expression froze. Under the bite of Kiba, he flipped over with one hand, and at the moment when the seal was formed, he shouted violently. Kaiden fire style, sword of fire prison. Wu Wei grabbed it in the void with his right hand, and the fiery chakra quickly gathered in the palm of his hand, turning into a transpiring burning blade in the blink of an eye. If it is said that the technique of the heavenly prison is restricted by the confinement of the curse, then the sword of the fire prison is Wu Wei's powerful attack method. Once hit by the sword of this fire prison, it will burn into a fire and burn to death. Looking at the thunder light circulating on Chinyu's body, Wu Wei believed that as long as this hit hits, no matter how good Chinyu's defense was, couldn't resist the scorching heat. Messy thoughts flashed in Wu Wei's mind, and now the arrow had to be shot on the string. Before he could think about it, the 5 fingers of his right hand were suddenly clenched, and they went straight to Chinyu's chest. However, the distance that is so close at hand can be approached in the blink of an eye. But the moment the sword of fire prison was pierced, a lightning-like hand grabbed it on his wrist first. Chapter 342 The Frightened Savior. Facing the familiar Yuhi-colored auspicious cloud sleeves, this capture seemed to tighten their hearts. They finally understood what Orochimaru had just said. The young man in front of him can't be imprisoned at all. Is this your confidence? Chinyu's gaze swept across the 4 of them. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. The withered bark-like cheeks of the 4 elders changed drastically in an instant. Witnessing the inaction of this scene, I was completely confused. The moment the sword of fire prison in my hand dissipated, I hurriedly flipped over with my left hand, took out a scroll, and threw it to the horse-faced old man. Elder, quickly open the scroll, only that thing and that adult can save us. Wu Wei was in a hurry. That lord. The horse-faced old man's expression became stagnant, and he quickly remembered the mysterious person Wu Wei had been talking about during this time. In a short period of time, Wu Wei's strength can be raised from ordinary Jonin to elite Jonin, and even to other semi-cage level existences. In particular, the grass-hidden imprisonment technique and the heaven prison technique have raised their overall strength to a higher level. The young man in front of him was so mysterious that even the heaven prison technique and the grass hidden imprisonment technique could not have any effect on him. The only chance for me to win is on the mysterious man. Messy thoughts swept across the horse-faced old man's mind quickly, and as soon as he took over the scroll, it spread out in front of him. Without further hesitation, he bit his index finger with his backhand, and his hands flew down like wheels, forming a series of spell marks. The art of psychic. Boom. The right hand slapped the scroll suddenly, and a large piece of white smoke rolled back down. A huge black shadow emerged directly from the white fog. A figure standing on it is even more eye-catching. Hee, Wu Wei, it seems that you have lived up to my high hopes, so you will soon reverse me. If this person is not worth killing at all, then I will only ask you. The soft voice, in the out of the fog. Wu Wei's face became anxious, and he couldn't care less and shouted first, "Sir, hurry up and save me, this person knows sage art. If he absorbs his chakra, the box of bliss can be opened even more." Box of bliss. Qin Yu raised his brows involuntarily. He knew that the box of bliss was known as the Six Paths Immortal's ultimate artifact. However, I didn't expect that there were other people hidden behind the grass ninja village. When he saw the visitor clearly, a playful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he said, "Black Zetsu, I didn't expect that I would meet you here." The small voice burst like thunder. The mysterious atmosphere that had just gathered in the field was instantly punctured. Mystery, of course, knowing nothing, is the most mysterious. Now that you were broken by a word, how can you pretend to be tall? The fog in the sky dissipated, and a huge square box appeared in front of everyone. The four faces represent joy, anger and sorrow, giving people a creepy feeling. However, compared to the Black Zetsu who is seen as a savior while standing on the box of Elysium. The yin and yang face that used to be brilliant, but now has a dazed face. He hurriedly looked at Qin Yu, and the moment he entered his eyes, his expression suddenly changed. Before he could think about it, he quickly pulled away and retreated, but soon he saw a ghostly figure that took the lead and landed behind him. Seeing the back road being cut off and the familiar Yuhi tongue, Black Zetsu's face turned ashen to ultimate. The violent scene filled Wu Wei's face with hope. He couldn't help but froze, and asked anxiously, "Sir, what are you doing?" In Wu Wei's eyes, this is a god who allows himself to take a powerful shortcut. It is a savior with many mysterious and unpredictable means. However, the scene in front of him now completely overturned his cognition. With that appearance, there is a feeling that the savior is also frightened. What? Konoha's blood-colored Asura, Uchiha Qin Yu, why did you mess with him? Black Zetsu almost roared out, if it wasn't because of Uchiha Qin Yu's presence. He can't wait to kick Wu Wei directly out. Scarlet Asura. Wu Wei and the others were stunned, and hurriedly looked back at Qin Yu, who had been calm from beginning to end. Orochimaru not long ago, that evaluation that he couldn't kill, made his mind tremble. This is an existence that even the 5 great ninja villages must hold a 5 Shadows conference to treat with caution. However, now they have sinned to death. If they hadn't heard it with their own ears, they wouldn't have believed that they had done such a stupid thing. It felt like walking a tightrope on the edge of a knife. Black Zetsu, I've been looking for you for a long time. Qin Yu smiled playfully. Right eye, Tomo Mangekyo Sharingan, suddenly turned, and the black flames burned like a frenzy on Black Zetsu's body. Amaterasu. Black flames are like maggots of toe bones, once they are burned, they spread quickly. A shrill scream resounded through the world first. However, with the sound, the next moment, the other half of Black Zetsu's body instantly inflated like a balloon. Boom! A thunderous roar resounded suddenly, and black flames burst out like dazzling fireworks. Facing the explosion that was so close at hand, the horse-faced old man had no time to escape, and was instantly splashed by Amaterasu. "Help! Help!" The horse-faced old man cried out in surprise, the stabbing pain that penetrated deep into the bone marrow. The three old men standing in the distance, too late to think about it, quickly formed a series of spells. Sweeten, water style, wild water wave. The three of them shot together, and under the gathering of the tyrannical chakras, the water waves in the sky turned into a waterfall, rushing straight towards the horse-faced old man. However, the water wave dissipated and the surface soil was washed away. But the black flame was still burning in the eyes of the public. In the face of such a strange scene, a chill quickly rose up on the soles of his feet. In the blink of an eye, the horse-faced old man soaked in the water was directly swallowed by the black flames. The three old men didn't have time to think about it, they turned around and ran away. Senpo, Sage Art Futon, Wind Style, Rasengan. Chinyu grabbed the 5 fingers of his right hand, and the tyrannical chakra gathered frantically, and there was a sharp and ear-piercing air roaring and tearing in an instant. Under Wu Wei's astonished gaze, without any bells and whistles, he threw it straight at the 3 fleeing old men. Hurry up and escape. Wu Wei was in a hurry. At this moment, Chinyu had already let go of the hand on his wrist. Wu Wei knew clearly that if he wanted to escape, he definitely had the chance to escape. But, facing this tempting opportunity, there was only one urgent thought in his mind. I desperately want to see that someone can escape from the hands of this young man who has scared the 5 countries. Only in this way will there be more courage in Wu Wei's heart to escape. Chapter 343. You are not qualified to surrender. Above the huge ruins, whether it is the melee wandering ninjas or Wu Wei and others, their faces are full of urgency. Watching that plundering away, chasing behind the 3 of them. As if it had grown wings, the blue chakra sphere secretly clenched its fists. In their eyes, facing this bloody Asura Uchiha Chinyu who suddenly appeared. Under that illustrious name, the only thing that can be done is to wait. Wait, find a trace of vitality in these 3 elders. However, this idea just popped into my mind. The next moment, the 3 elders clearly felt the strangeness behind them, and hurriedly looked back. The moment their pupils shrank suddenly, they didn't have time to think about it, their hands fluttered and quickly hand sealed up. Boy, if you want to kill us with this little ninjutsu, you'd be underestimating our grass ninja village. As an elder, the speed of the hand seal in his hand is obviously not bad, facing the Rasengan shuriken attacking from the sky. In just a few short breaths, the last magic seal was formed. Doden, Earth Style Wall. Doden, Earth Style, Earth Dragon Art. Doden, Earth Style, Earth Wall. The 3 old screams sounded almost at the same time. The forcibly driven chakra, at the moment of madness, a wall of earth, an earth-style wall, and a dragon of earth, condensed in an instant. Gathering together, it can be described as overwhelming. In their eyes, facing Chinyu's seemingly casual exploratory attack, it was enough to easily stop him. However, this idea just came into my mind, and the next moment, the mighty Doden Earth-style attacked, and instantly collided with the incoming Futon Wind-style Rasengan shuriken. In an instant, the circulating air seemed to stop. The next moment, before they woke up, the sphere, which seemed to be pinched by hand, exploded in an instant. Boom! The violent air waves rolled back like a frenzy. The shrill and piercing air ripped and screamed, and it was soaring into the sky. Those seemingly mighty Doden Earth-style attacks were torn to shreds in an instant in the face of the Futon Wind-style Rasengan that exploded in an instant. The 3 elders were stunned at first, and the next moment it was too late to react, and they were instantly swallowed by the hurricane. Boom! The hurricane soared into the sky, the trees fell down, and the rocky ground was torn apart. The refugee camp, which was already in ruins, became even more messy. After everything returned to calm, the 3 bodies that had already turned into rotten sacks were scattered around. The clothes like rags don't show the majesty of the past at all. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that these 4 elders were like iron-faced judges. In one face, he will directly give his life. No, don't kill us. We are willing to surrender. As long as we don't kill us, let us do anything. Quote. Panic begging for mercy rang out one after another. The originally scattered camp, after witnessing Qin Yu's actions with his own eyes. Even the last bit of confidence in the confrontation was directly annihilated. They asked themselves, but they couldn't stand a stare, and they couldn't stand a ninjutsu that they just picked up. It can be said that for them, all of this is simply the death of the gods. For a time, there was a series of thumping sounds of heavy objects hitting the ground. Seeing those figures kneeling down one by one, Wu Wei's body trembled. Uchiha Qin-yu, who was close at hand, he didn't have time to think about it. He bent his knees, knelt heavily on the ground and begged for mercy. My lord, please give me a chance to surrender. Sir, please give us a chance to surrender. As soon as the sentence was completed, everyone in the field clearly echoed the response. Faced with such an invincible opponent, the only thing we can do is to surrender together. Perhaps, only by doing so, can we get a chance to survive. Kimimaro, covered in blood, stopped the killing in his hands and looked at Qin-yu. Orochimaru, who was standing on the box of bliss, couldn't help but look at Qin-yu. In the face of this kind of courage without fighting, it is not something that ordinary people can have. Qin-yu's eyes swept across the field lightly. Wherever they passed, those who secretly observed the change in Qin-yu's expression, had no time to think about it, and quickly lowered their heads even lower. It looked like he wanted to bury his head in the soil, all just to seek a trace of life. I said, I'm just going to take my people away. The affairs of your grass ninja village have nothing to do with me. Qin-yu said lightly. He is not bloodthirsty. The killing just now was just because of their repeated provocation, and they suddenly became playful. Now it can be regarded as knocking the mountain and shaking the tiger, and killing the chicken to warn the monkey. The purpose of this trip has also been achieved, then everything is enough. No, sir, you misunderstood. We represent the entire Sao Ninja village to vote for the adults. As long as the adults agree, our Sao Ninja village is willing to seal you as the master. Wu Wei was in a hurry. This thought just flashed through his mind. But after he went through this battle, Wu Wei clearly knew that having ambition also requires strong strength to be able to back it up. Otherwise, all efforts and strategies will be nonsense in the face of absolute strength. However, for outsiders, facing the surrender of a ninja village is definitely a sweet existence. But to Qin-yu, it seemed a bit tasteless. Looking back at the group of ninjas who clearly agreed, as well as the stunned Ma Dongyi, Qin-yu shook his head indifferently and said, I don't like to carry oil bottles. Orochimaru, let's go, we've lost a lot of time. Abandoning these words, Qin-yu turned around and left. Orochimaru stuck out his tongue, looked back at where Black Zetsu was standing, and said, isn't that guy chasing him? He blew himself up. In Orochimaru's eyes, White Zetsu is the clone of Black Zetsu. Moment when Amaterasu fell, Black Zetsu used White Zetsu to resist, and then exploded instantly causing a commotion, and finally took the opportunity to escape. No, Qin-yu didn't turn his head back. With Orochimaru, Qin-yu is very clear that Black Zetsu is Kagaya-hime,'s idea. It is an immortal existence that can be turned into a will and attached to many things. The only way is to use the sealing technique to seal him. As for now, compared with the original book, the Black Hand behind the war has obviously become a lost dog. For Qin-yu, it is not particularly important. On the contrary, he was more interested in the kind that made him collect the fate of the 9 big-tailed beasts. After all, the strong are invincible, and the master is lonely. For the current Chinyu, there are not many people who can compete with him without the Otsutsuki family. Everything he is doing now is just to pass the time and find the hints of destiny. Watching Chinyu leave, Wu Wei and the others were stunned in place. Looking at the remaining ruins in the field, and the box of bliss that they regarded as the killer. At this moment Wu Wei finally understands that in the face of absolute strength, all conspiracies and tricks are not even farts. At least they don't even have the qualifications to surrender. Chapter 344. This may be a death calamity. Meanwhile, in the village of Sunagakur, an inexplicable smell of desolation permeated the Cage office. A figure stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows like an iron tower, making the atmosphere in the field even more depressing. Maki, you said that after receiving a summons from Ebizo, that Pakura defector is going to return to Sunagakur village. Rasa said sharply, his expression sank. The ninjas who can gather in the office are the elites of Sunagakur village. For them, Pakura was like a hero in the Third Ninja War. However, for the sake of Shinobi village, he was kept in the dark in the end. For the so-called safety of the village, he was betrayed by his most trusted companion. This feeling cannot be described in words. Why didn't you speak? Rasa turned around suddenly, swept his eyes coldly across the field, and said sharply, do you think that my decision that day was wrong? We have to reconcile with the village of Kurigakure, can't we have to pay a little price, can't we? The aggressive voice made the expressions of everyone in the field change suddenly. Yes, we can pay some price, why can't you be the one who pays the price? The awe-inspiring voice suddenly sounded, immediately tense everyone's nerves. To speak indiscriminately at such a juncture is undoubtedly to hit the muzzle. I hurriedly followed the sound and looked at the figure first, causing everyone's expressions to change slightly. Galuro, do you know what you are talking about? Rasa said sternly. Don't forget, you are my fiancé. So what? Galio said anxiously, I was blind at the time, so I saw you. You, Rasa gasped. However, before he could have an attack, Maki stepped forward to persuade him. Third generation Cage, stay calm. Maki gave Yashimaru a wink, motioning him to persuade Galuro, and immediately said, Galuro and Pakura are students who graduated from the same class, and they have a deep relationship, so I misunderstood the kindness of Cage-sama. It will be more tense for a while. Quote. The first thing we have to do now is what to do with Pakura. Having said that, Maki took out a scroll with his backhand and said, this is the intelligence scroll sent back by Consultant Ebizo. Not long ago, he and Pakura were attacked by Konoha missing Nin Orochimaru and Hirikohu. The other party peeked at the boundaries of Pakura's bloodline. At the critical moment, it was Uchiha Chinyu who came to the rescue. According to the scroll, Chinyu didn't come back with Pakura, but it is suspected that he gave Pakura a so-called rescue scroll, so we should take it seriously when dealing with Pakura. The slightly elusive voice made the expressions of everyone in the huge office change slightly. If we say that the most sensitive topic at the moment, for the 5 major countries, it is no longer a simple war. Konoha missing Nin, who rebelled in Shinobi village and broke away, was the blood-colored Asura Uchiha Chinyu. 3 days later, in Konoha Ninja Village, a meeting of the 5 shadows was held to deal with Uchiha Chinyu. It can be said that any decision made now will likely affect the resolution of the 5 shadows conference. For a time, everyone's eyes turned around and locked on Rasa's body. HMPH, Marky, are you bringing this up under these circumstances to make me turn a blind eye to Pakura's return? Rasa snorted coldly and met Marky's gaze. You should be very clear about sending Pakura out, but the high-level decision of Sunagakur village is based on the interests of our Sunagakur village. In the eyes of other people, Pakura still preserves the heroic attitude and dedicates himself. However, if she comes back this time and pierces all of this, even the so-called hero mask is no longer needed. It will not only be shamed for me, but also what impact it will have on Sunagakure village. You should be very clear. The awe-inspiring voice made the expressions of the people in the field change slightly. Rasa's remarks seemed very selfish, but they involved the important interests of Sunagakure village. After all, the top officials of Sunagakure village kept Pakura in the dark, but they claimed to the outside world that it was Pakura who volunteered to become the last hero for the sake of Shinobi village. If it is stabbed in public, this is a scene directed and acted by Sunagakure village. I am afraid that it will be cold, and the hearts of the entire Sunagakure village will be broken. HMPH, you already know the importance of things now. Rasa snorted coldly. What we have to do now is to never let her set foot in Sunagakure village. Just remember, Pakura is now missing Nin, not a hero. This. Karura parted Yuhi's lips, and the words came to an end. Looking at Maki and the others who were shaking their heads, she knew clearly. As long as you are a member of Sunagakure village, it is easy to distinguish between your personal feelings and the interests of Shinobi village. Looking at the silent crowd, Rasa snorted coldly and said, since everyone has no opinion, send the order to intercept missing Nin Pakura at the entrance of Sunagakure village, and kill her when it is not necessary. As for Uchiha Chinyu, now that the Five Shadows conference is about to be held, if he really wants to reconcile, he should know clearly what he can manage and what he can't. Not to mention, this is Sunagakure village, his hand, but can't reach this place, and he's not allowed to reach here. Kill. Karura's expression turned pale and her knees went weak. If it wasn't for Yashimaru's support in time, she would have already fallen to the ground. However, following Rasa's order, the entire Sunagakure village quickly went into martial law. Missing Nin Pakura, the matter of returning to the village has spread throughout the entire Sunagakure village, giving people a feeling of being the first to go. On the moat, an old figure stood there like an iron tower. There was a sound of breaking air from the side, and soon she saw a puppet crow landed on the back of her hand. Go tell Ebizo and let him make the decision. If Pakura comes back, waiting for her may be doomed. Crow. After the puppet crow gave a strange cry, it fluttered away. After the crow disappeared at the end of the sky, Chio fell into silence and looked back at the brand new sculpture not far away. This is not long ago. After Pakura was sent to Kurigakure village as a hero, the people in the village built a hero sculpture for her. It was later revealed that Pakura and Konoha missing Nin, Uchiha Chinyu colluded together. However, due to recent events, one after another broke out. The high-level officials of Sunagakure village did not speak out, and the question of whether the sculpture continued to exist was gradually left behind. Right now, even Chio couldn't figure out why Pakura came back. A trace of inexplicable recollection appeared on the old withered bark-like face, and he fell into silence. Chapter 345 I can't help calling a teacher. Orochimaru, is this your laboratory? It's really simple. Abandoned towns, broken buildings, scattered around, all kinds of animals, and even human corpses. If it wasn't for Orochimaru to lead the way, no one would want to believe that in such a deserted place, there would still be a laboratory hidden. Ahem, Chinyu, I can understand, are you making fun of me? Orochimaru looked back at Chinyu with a blank expression, and said, I'm not like you, being able to be so high profile and showing up a little bit will not attract attention. Less hassle. Hee, the trouble you're talking about is Jiraiya. Chinyu said with a teasing smile, if he didn't keep saying that he likes Tsunade, I suspect that there is something nasty between you two. You bastard. Orochimaru opened his mouth, was speechless for a while, and directly pressed his hand on the half-stone tablet on the ruins. A mysterious magic seal, obviously echoing the curse seal in Orochimaru's hand. With the sound of the roaring earthquake, half of the stone tablet was directly removed, revealing an authentic stone staircase that could only accommodate one person. Let's go. This place has not been used for a long time. I hope the equipment can still operate. Orochimaru showed an interesting smile while leading the way, looked at Chinyu and said, I really want to know, why did you get it? Primary Mokuden wood style cells. Quote. It's not that I underestimate you. I was able to successfully extract Mokuden wood style cells to the level of human experiments, but it took 4 or 5 years. If it was you, it would be 10, 15 years, or even longer. Time, why don't you leave this kind of thing to me? Looking at the curious baby Orochimaru, Chinyu patted him on the shoulder with a warm smile, and said, Orochimaru, you should have heard a saying, the more you know, the faster you die. You are a smart person. Orochimaru's smile suddenly stiffened, and he quickly coughed and said, Cough, I don't know anything, and I don't want to know any more. However, if you insist on trying, here is my codex. I hope it will be of some use to you to extract Mokuden wood-style cells as soon as possible. Having said that, Orochimaru's pupils flashed a hint of provocation and playfulness. That meant obviously that he intended to see Chinyu make a fool of himself. For Orochimaru's careful thought, Chinyu did not take it to heart. After all, looking around the entire Hokage world, Orochimaru can definitely be called a scientific geek, a breath of fresh air. Geniuses are proud of their talents, and they speak things out of their own strength. As for whether the system has any effect on scientific experience in addition to ninjutsu, even Chinyu is uncertain. As Orochimaru said, if the system doesn't work, it's a rookie like Chinyu who is not even half as good. If it takes 10 years, or even longer, to extract Mokuden wood-style cells, this is more painful than death. Messy thoughts flashed in Chinyu's mind, and after taking the scroll in Orochimaru's hand, he quickly spread it out. Along with the mysterious and difficult experience narration recorded above, and various materials, they quickly flowed through Chinyu's eyes. The fast-running brain finally sounded a long-awaited ethereal voice. Ding dang, congratulations to the host who has learned the theory of cell evolution, whether to choose one-click full level immediately. Sure enough, Chinyu's lips pursed slightly, revealing a playful smile. It seems that it is indeed a system, not only effective for ninjutsu, but also this kind of scientific theory, which is indeed far beyond Chinyu's understanding. However, when I think of it, if even that kind of growth experience is occupied, I am afraid that life will be a little regrettable. Obviously, I could have done it at the beginning, but as soon as I debuted, I became a technical expert and a small motor on the bed, which is a bit sad. What's the matter, don't you understand? Do you need me to explain a thing or two to you? But it's also possible that I'll explain it to you, but you won't understand. Orochimaru's face became even more playful. However, the smile that had just emerged, suddenly became stiff as the words fell in his ears. No need, I've already learned it, I'll return this to you. Chinyu returned to his senses and returned the scroll to Orochimaru. Have you learned it? Orochimaru demanded stiffly, are you joking? I just want to brush my presence in front of the evildoer. You just nod your head a little to show that you won't be fine. Boy, what are you talking about? Don't you really give geniuses no room for survival? Looking at Chinyu, who closed his eyes and did not respond at all, Orochimaru was obviously anxious. In the huge ninja world, Orochimaru clearly knows that there are many people who surpass themselves in the attainments of ninjutsu. However, in terms of science, Orochimaru dares to be second, and absolutely no one dares to take first. However, in the face of Chinyu, who is like a monster, he has no confidence at all. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, the cell evolution theory is a one-click full-level success. The sound of the system sounded again, accompanied by complicated information, like a warm current pouring into the mind. Chinyu took a deep breath and opened his eyes suddenly. Sure enough, Orochimaru's ability is not something that ordinary people can replace in the ninja world. Only by personally contacting it can we understand the profoundness of science. However, unlike Orochimaru, Chinyu did not have such a fascination with science. He needed the theory of cell evolution. Just because I don't like letting my fate be held in the hands of others. Orochimaru with an urgent expression, Chinyu patted his shoulder and said with a smile, I, Chinyu, call you the #1 person in science. Science first. Orochimaru couldn't help being stunned. This sudden chicken soup was too sudden. However, before he could react, he saw that Chinyu looked around the field for a while, and then took it out from Orochimaru with his backhand not long ago. Courtesy of Black Zetsu, for primary Hokage Mokuden, wood-style cells, and test tubes for Uchiha Madara cells. Seeing this scene, Orochimaru suddenly woke up, and before he could delve into it, he saw that all the experimental steps were carried out in Chinyu's hands like a cloud of water. And the meticulous process made Orochimaru stunned. In some experimental sessions where even he felt dry and hadn't figured it out, Chinyu's hands were still flying like wheels, without the slightest dryness or stagnation. That feeling is like an old pedant who has been immersed in scientific experiments for decades. When the last Mokuden wood-style cells were extracted, Orochimaru still maintained a dazed look, that fiery and urgent. It feels like being in a dream, still unable to wake up. Most importantly, Orochimaru looked at Chinyu's back and couldn't help but called out a teacher. Chapter 346 Metamorphosis Rinnegan. It's not possible, it's not possible. Orochimaru looked stiff, shook his head and said to himself, you have long understood the evolution of cells, and the extraction process you just did was more sophisticated than me, and there are some details that even I can't handle well. Quote. If my experiment is 100%, then your experiment process is 2%. Can you show me one more time? If it is said that in the original book, what makes Orochimaru the most crazy is all kinds of perfect bodies. Now, in his eyes, the most fanatical thing is to see Chinyu do one more experiment. As for the sentence Chinyu gave him just now, the evaluation of the first person in science is simply a shame for him. Compared with the evildoer in front of him, he felt ashamed even when he showed off just now. As soon as he thought about the axe from Banman, if there was a dog hole here, he would have gone into it without hesitation. Hee, some things can only be understood, not spoken. I'm different from you. I'm not interested in the so-called science, but you are different. Maybe, after I extract this time, I won't do it again in my life. The so-called scientific operation. Chinyu smiled and looked at the syringe in his hand. If Orochimaru's experimental experience is not wrong, Black Zetsu is right to provide cell samples about the original Hokage, and even Uchiha Madara. Then this time will usher in the long-awaited opportunity to open Rinnegan. Seeing that Chinyu's expression suddenly became solemn, Orochimaru opened his mouth and was silent for a while. Mokuden wood-style cells extracted by Chinyu can definitely be called Orochimaru. In his experimental career, the most pure and infinitely close to the prototype of the Mokuden wood-style cells of the first-generation Hokage Senju Hashirama. If you use this cell to assist, you can custom pure world reincarnation. That can definitely reproduce the glory of the original Hokage, Senju Hashirama. Now, Chinyu has extracted this thing, making Orochimaru have an intriguing feeling. After all, in Orochimaru's cognition, this Mokuden wood-style cell, in addition to improving the success rate of impure world reincarnation, and enhancing the ability to control. At most, it is only to enhance the fit of an experimental body for the transplant operation such as Sharingan. If you are lucky, you may be able to create a tasteless Mokuden wood-style ninja Yamato. Now Chinyu has spent so much thought and effort to extract this Mokuden wood-style cell, if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. He didn't want to believe that it was all true. Orochimaru, didn't I just say that some things, the more you know, the quicker you will die? Chinyu glanced at Orochimaru. Immediately, he took a deep breath and looked at his arm. Under Orochimaru's shocked gaze, he stabbed the syringe directly into his arm. The violent scene made Orochimaru's face change drastically. This is no ordinary cell. It combines the cells of Uchiha Madara and the original Hokage Senju Hashirama to extract the most pure cells. One is known as the legend of the Uchiha clan, and the other is known as the god of ninjas. Even on the day of Orochimaru, when Mokuden wood-style cells with huge flaws were injected into the baby's body, there would be cell-squeezing effects such as antiphagy. Not to mention, it is Uchiha Chinyu's Mokuden wood-style cells that are infinitely close to 100% pure. Rao is a very human-like existence, and I am afraid that he will also be attacked by cells. However, this idea just appeared in Orochimaru's mind. The next moment, Orochimaru saw Chinyu's arm, and the blood vessels quickly protruded, moving like a ferocious centipede. It quickly spreads to the heart and even the body. Such a terrifying scene, falling in Orochimaru's eyes, undoubtedly made his pupils shrink. He clearly knew that this was a sign of cellular backlash. Once Chinyu's body is unable to support this backlash, then what awaits him will be his death. However, in the face of all this, Chinyu didn't seem to take it to heart. After taking a deep breath, he quietly closed his eyes. Uchiha Madara was able to turn on Rinnegan unexpectedly, and it was also by luck that he had experienced a near-death experience. Now Chinyu dares to act like this, not because he thinks his luck is better than Uchiha Madara. Instead, they are using the system to gamble. As long as this cell assimilates and can trigger the function of the system, then everything can be done. Ding dang, congratulations to the host who has obtained the Mokuden wood-style cell division evolution. Do you choose to immediately reach the full level with one click? The crisp and ethereal voice resounded in Chinyu's mind, and while a smile appeared on the corner of his lips, there was also a sense of relief in his heart. After going through many things, Chinyu clearly knew that as long as he was in front of the system, any problem would not be a problem. What's more, he had waited too long for this moment. After taking a deep breath, Chinyu's thoughts moved and he immediately issued an order. Immediately one click full level. Ding dong, please wait a moment, host. Ding dang, congratulations to the host. Mokuden wood-style cell division evolution is a one-key full success. Ding dong, the system has detected that the host Eternal Sharingan has evolved into Rinnegan, whether to choose a one-click full level. A series of system prompts came out, Chinyu secretly relieved. The moment has finally come. Immediately one key to full level. Chinyu gave the order impatiently. Ding dong, please wait a moment, host. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. Rinnegan has successfully reached the full level with one click. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. The derivative pupil technique, Shinra Tensai Almighty Push, has successfully reached the full level with one key. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. Derived pupil, Bansho Tenon Universal Pull, one-click success. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. The derivative pupil technique, Chibaku Tensai Heavenly Body Bursting from the Earth, has successfully reached the full level with one click. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. The derivative pupil technique, the psychic technique Geto Mazo, Demonic Statue of the Outer Path, has been successfully completed with one click. The series of system prompts made Chinyu secretly surprised. He was already mentally prepared, but he didn't expect that Rinnegan would generate so many pupil techniques without digging it out by himself. Although ninjutsu like Shinra Tensai Almighty Push, Bansho Tenon Universal Pull, and Chibaku Tensai Heavenly Body Bursting from the Earth, are not too new. However, these are great tricks. As soon as Rinnegan opened, to destroy a ninja village, it was just a gesture. If combined with Uchiha Madara's booster eyes, the power cannot be described in words. What's more, Chinyu will be able to awaken his own pupil technique in the future, and he will have a system around him. It is just a simple thought. Chinyu, are you all right? Orochimaru was stunned, and couldn't help but ask. A moment ago, he could still see the blood vessels in Chinyu's body swell like a ferocious centipede. The whole person is like a swollen fat man. In Orochimaru's eyes, he thought that Chinyu would soon inflate and explode to death. I was planning to use my experience to give Uchiha Chinyu emergency treatment. The next moment, I saw Chinyu's body, like a deflated balloon, quickly withered. This made Orochimaru suddenly feel a sense of incomprehension, and could only stare and scream. However, before he could take any action, he immediately met Chinyu's eyes that suddenly opened, but his pupils shrank suddenly, and his face was full of disbelief. Chapter 347 _ Join the missing nin group. This is Rinnegan. Orochimaru's expression changed suddenly. Looking at the changes in Uchiha Chinyu's pupils, the Sharingan of Yuhi, who was like bloody water, instantly turned pale. This feeling sent chills down Orochimaru's spine. However, what shocked him the most was the origin of Rinnegan, which turned out to be transformed from Mangekyo Sharingan. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Orochimaru would not have believed that the Uchiha family was actually related to the legendary Six Paths Immortals. However, this shock, he did not dare to say anything casually. After all, Chinyu's words just now, at this moment, he remembered in his heart. The more you know, the faster you die. Sometimes, pretending not to know, I am afraid it is still the way of smart people. Okay, the matter here is over, now you are free. Chinyu felt the tyrannical power brought by Rinnegan. Of the Mokuden wood-style cells implanted in the first generation of Hokage Senju Hashirama, the expansive chakra has skyrocketed, and his own strength is at least 5 or 6 times stronger than when Rinnegan has not awakened. If you meet Uchiha Madara again, even if he is in his prime, let alone rolling. This time, I'm afraid it's rubbing against the ground. So you're gone. Orochimaru was startled. For the legendary Rinnegan, who was advancing on the road of science, of course, was full of boundless curiosity. I thought that Chinyu would at least try Rinnegan's abilities. After all, even an ordinary person would play with a brand new toy first. However, looking at Chinyu's confident expression now, Orochimaru knew clearly that his idea was probably in vain. However, before Chinyu could respond, a sound of breaking through the air suddenly sounded. The sudden scene made Orochimaru's nerves tense. After all, this is his secret laboratory, although it has been abandoned for a long time and has not been of much use. However, he is confident that the concealment of this place is also a first-class existence in many laboratories. If even this laboratory is discovered, other laboratories may also be discovered. Don't make a fuss, it's Kimimaro. Chinyu rolled his eyes at Orochimaru. For him, who was a little startled, it was obvious that he had not come out of the role of a student under the aura of the teacher just now. Hearing this, Orochimaru couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed on his face. He followed the sound and saw that Kimimaro, who had been staying outside, walked in quickly. Sasori in his hand, he couldn't help but raise his brows, showing a look of interest. For those vicious members that Chinyu's subordinates called up, they were placed in the huge ninja world, and each of them was a dangerous missing nin. It appears to be an organization, but in fact it acts independently. At least, after Orochimaru and Chinyu met and fought many times, Chinyu was almost alone every time he appeared. As for those so-called companions and subordinates, they have completely disappeared. However, it is precisely because of this degree of freedom that Orochimaru has an inexplicable yearning. Boss, this is urgent information. Kimimaro looked at Orochimaru and handed the puppet Sasori to Chinyu without any hesitation. Chinyu took the puppet Sasori, took the information bound on it, looked at the content left on it, frowned slightly, and did not show the slightest surprise. "Boss, what's going on?" Kimimaro asked a little impatiently. After all, he was still young, so he could only be regarded as an alternate main force for the missing nin group under Chinyu's command. All sent out by Uchiha Chinyu long before he joined. If Kimimaro wants to be recognized by other people, at least he needs to work harder and participate in more battles, so that other members will not underestimate him because of his age. It was Pakura who planned to return to Sunagakure village. I'm afraid he would encounter danger. Chinyu raised a thunderbolt from his backhand, and instantly smashed the note with the information. Return to Sunagakure village. Orochimaru hesitated for a moment, then said slightly hesitantly, "Is Aunt Pakura yours? I heard not long ago that Sunagakure village classified her as a suspected missing nin. Now, I have something to do with you. If you run back rashly, I'm afraid you will be killed. Don't you need to save her?" As one of the former Konoha Sannin, Orochimaru's intelligence network cannot be underestimated either. If Pakura is not entangled with Chinyu, he might be able to characterize it as a suspected missing nin. So after not long ago, in the face of Hiriko's attack, Chinyu came to the rescue in time. This is a hero-saving beauty, but it also means that the former Sunagakure village hero, who colluded with Konoha missing nin's blood-colored Asura, actually exists. As long as the Sunagakure village is murdered, there is no need for too many reasons. No need, what I gave her, as long as she wants, is enough for her to leave Sunagakure village unscathed. I just hope that Sunagakure village doesn't do anything stupid, otherwise this ninja world map will probably become the 4 major ninja villages. Chinyu said lightly. The small voice seemed to be calm, but it was precisely because of this reason that Orochimaru felt even more frightened. If, as Chinyu said, Sunagakure village will be wiped from the huge ninja world once it makes a wrong choice. That meant that what Chinyu gave to Pakura was probably the most extravagant amulet in the ninja world. After all, Sunagakure village was the instigator of the Third Ninja World War, and even in Kikyo Yamanaka, there were many duels with Konoha ninja village. As the Konoha Sannin of the past, Orochimaru went head-to-head with Sunagakure village many times. In the original book, the 4 generations of Kazekage Rasa were hunted, and only when he dared to go to the Konoha shinobi village to take the Chunin exam. Many means, and the Otogakure 5 people, and even impure world reincarnation out of the 3rd generation of Kazekage, to kill Rasa. However, now Chinyu put down his rhetoric in public and gave Pakura the amulet that could destroy Sunagakure village. This subverts Orochimaru's cognition. Don't you believe it? Kimimaro looked at Orochimaru indifferently. During this period of time, he obviously liked to lift the pole with Orochimaru. After all, on the way, only Orochimaru can give him a sense of presence. No, I didn't, I was just curious what it was. Orochimaru responded quickly. Orochimaru is salivating for Kimimaro's talent, but that doesn't mean he's afraid of Kimimaro. Just beating a dog also depends on the owner. This kind of awe comes from Chinyu. However, as soon as these words were blurted out, Orochimaru quickly closed his mouth and shook his head. Ahem, I remember that the more I know, the faster I die. However, there is one thing I still want to try. I hope to be able to join the missing nin group. Chapter 348 One-Shot Test. I want to be able to join the missing nin group. The small voices echoed in the cluttered laboratory, causing Kimimaro's expression to change slightly. For outsiders, it is a shame to be a missing nin's subordinate. However, during this time together, Konoha missing nin blood-colored Asura, Uchiha Chinyu's special status in the ninja world, but Kimimaro has a different feeling of honor. If you say, not long ago, because of the identity of the Bamboo Clan, everyone was shouting and beating as a rat crossing the street. But when it comes to mentioning that he is the person next to Uchiha Chinyu, it will lead to a dread and awe. This huge disparity in treatment is not due to changes in his own strength. Instead, it's because of a name. This is enough to explain what a fierce name is. Otherwise, the cage-level powerhouse in front of him, known as Konoha Sannin, who is valued by the demigod Hanzo of the Salamander, would not be polite to him. Now Orochimaru suddenly proposed to join Chinyu's missing nin group, which made Kimimaro suddenly remember a very important thing. He only followed Chinyu when all the old members left the team. It's not very clear what counts as an official entry into the missing nin group. If there is a threshold, Kimimaro thinks the easiest way to get the recognition of other members is to pass the threshold. You want to join my command? Chinyu raised his brows involuntarily. For the character of Orochimaru, he is not too cold. After all, in the original book, even Kishimoto came up with a brilliant stroke to give Orochimaru a chance to clean up. In the follow-up plot, he became a scientist who cooperated with Konoha Shinobi Village and was treated seriously by the 5 major shinobi villages. It can be described as a clear stream in the whitewashing camp. Although, in the original book, Orochimaru is a brainless person, full of words I like your body, and will riot at any time and take your body. But under absolute strength, all conspiracies and tricks are bullshit. What's more, in Chinyu's follow-up plan, Orochimaru will be used as a chess piece. This kind of surrender is better than going all over the world to find this stinky snake when it needs to be used. Looking at the eager Orochimaru, with those burning eyes like fire, Chinyu really doubted Orochimaru's male and female orientation. Need is one thing, though, but it's another to worship the barriers to entry. If you have to say, what are the requirements and tests to join his subordinates, there is only one condition. Take the next move. Boss, do you really have the qualifications to be under your command? Kimimaro couldn't hold his breath anymore. Feeling the urgent gaze of the two, Chinyu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose and said, yes, the conditions are very simple. As long as you are like everyone else, you can become a member of my command as long as you don't die after one move. The next move from you. Orochimaru's expression suddenly changed, and the battle between Uchiha Madara and Chinyu that day appeared in his mind involuntarily. Between the gestures, the attack method that shattered the world. For Orochimaru, the spine is also chilling just thinking about it. What's wrong? It's too late to regret it now. Chinyu patted Orochimaru's shoulder with a smile, and said, don't force it, or 18 years later, you will be a good man again. You. Orochimaru stopped at once. However, the more he looked at Chinyu's light-hearted smile, his heart felt as if it was being squeezed by an invisible big hand. Orochimaru couldn't hold back the fiery passion in his heart when he thought of the superb science and technology possessed by Uchiha Chinyu. After flickering for a moment, Orochimaru bit Kiba and said in a deep voice, okay, I am willing to accept the test. In terms of combat power, Orochimaru considers himself not to be Chinyu's opponent. But in the means of self-protection, it is still a bit emboldened. I would too, Kimimaro hurriedly echoed. He looked like he was worried that he would be left behind. Chinyu glanced at Kimimaro a little surprised, shook his head and said, you are still young, you don't need to accept this kind of test. Forget it, it's up to you. Seeing Kimimaro, stubborn face, Chinyu didn't bother to spend any more time and walked out of the laboratory first. Orochimaru and Kimimaro looked at each other and quickly followed. After a few minutes, after being far enough away from the laboratory, Orochimaru and Kimimaro followed Chinyu to a dilapidated ruin. Seeing the sudden stop of the pace, when the heart suddenly tightened, I immediately regained my energy and became alert. Don't worry, the threshold for joining is to resist a move, and I won't sneak up on you. Chinyu turned his head and rolled his eyes helplessly, as if the two of them were startled, and said, "However, you still have a chance now. Quit, if it really starts, it's probably going to die." As soon as these words fell, Orochimaru and Kimamaro's hearts throbbed, and after looking at each other involuntarily, Orochimaru couldn't help but put on a smile, licked Yuhi's long tongue, and said, "It's not just one. Hi, I'm Orochimaru, one of the Konoha Sannin anyway, still a little confident. However, little devil, I know that your strength is very good, and you have a rare bloodline boundary, but if you really can't hold it, you can hide behind me, and I will take care of you a little." "No need, you'd better take care of yourself and talk about it," Kimamaro replied indifferently. Seeing that the matter could not be reached, the eyes of the two were locked on Chinyu's body in vain. The hand hidden in the sleeve has already secretly formed a magic seal. In the face of this blow test, in their minds, they obviously abandoned the idea of attacking and thought of their most powerful means of defense. As long as Uchiha Chinyu made a shot, they would display their most powerful defensive ninjutsu, trying to withstand the test of this blow. However, messy thoughts flashed in the minds of the two of them, and the moment they held their breath, they looked at Chinyu, and the whole person seemed to fall into the ice cellar. Uchiha Chinyu, who is ordinary and unremarkable like the teenager next door, had all his breath suppressed in an instant. The next moment, the pale color filled a pair of pupils like a frenzy. Tomo, at the moment when a circle of ripples pass through, seems to run through their souls. An indescribable aura, like a high above, overlooking the world, like a godlike indifference, permeated Chinyu's body. In an instant, it shook their minds and hit the depths of their souls. They had already met Rinnegan of Uzumaki Nagato, and at that time, in addition to curiosity, it was a strange feeling. But now Chinyu felt like a god to them. Give them the illusion that their life is being held in their hands. Before they could react, it was Uchiha Chinyu with an ice-cold expression, who slowly raised his right hand. Chapter 349-The Dead Snake. The slowly raised right hand, the 5 fingers were slightly bluffed, and the tensed muscles seemed to be slowed down infinitely at this moment, and fell into Orochimaru's eyes, and the heart was suddenly tightened at this moment. As a senior ninja who has been in the ninja world for more than 10 or 20 years, it is an existence that has died in life and death. At this moment, he had an inexplicable illusion. This time, he asked to join the missing nin group and accepted the test of this blow. The messy thoughts flashed in my mind, and before I could think about it, Orochimaru roared like crazy. "Kimamaro, if you don't want to die, hurry up and hide behind me and use all your defenses, or you will surely die." Roaring together, without any bells and whistles, Orochimaru's hands quickly flipped like wheels. At this moment, let alone the strength of milk, Orochimaru may even have the willpower to hold back his urine. That hand speed completely surpassed the accumulation of being single for decades. The cumbersome psychic spell, at this moment, only took 2 short breaths. When his hands suddenly folded and he took a heavy photo of the ground, Uchiha Chinyu's indifferent and tidal voice instantly exploded. Spiritual art, triple Rashomon. Shinra Tensei, almighty push, sign. Boom. The earth is roaring. After obtaining the original Hokage Senju Hashirama, the psychic of absolute defense. Even in the face of the former teacher, the 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru summoned 3 Rashomon without using all his strength. But this time, he had no choice. His intuition told him that if he still held the mentality of contempt, then the result would be as Chinyu said, it would be a dead end. The 3 Rasho gates burst out of the ground quickly, the clanging sound of chains, and the hideous sculptured faces of the gates exuded an ancient, indestructible atmosphere. However, in the face of all this, the fluctuating air stagnates in an instant. The next moment, at the moment when Uchiha Chinyu suddenly clenched his fingers in the air, The space where the air was stagnant exploded like a balloon. An indescribable impact, centered on Chinyu, erupted directly like a volcanic eruption. Wherever you pass along the way, any dilapidated buildings or still heavy rocks, together with more than 10 meters of earth rock formations. At the moment when the 5 fingers are clenched tightly, it is like a child's play. At this moment, this invisible force of repulsion, as if holding a 10,000 fists, instantly slammed into the first Rasho gate. Boom! Like an ancient drum being struck, there was a deafening roar and collision. The seemingly indestructible gate, the 2 chains of hanging hammers that represent the limit, were taught directly to the ultimate. Even before the roaring sound was completely dissipated, the first door, the hideous carved face, collapsed in an instant. Under the indescribable deformation, there was a loud explosion, which instantly turned into a white mist and collapsed in the sky and the earth. Between. The next moment, the second and third Rashomon doors are no exception. In this invisible, like a raging tide, under the repulsive force of Wanjun's posture, it was impossible to block a face, and it was shattered in response, and it turned into a white fog that scattered between the sky and the earth. Orochimaru, who witnessed this scene, was already mentally prepared. However, when I saw all this with my own eyes, my heart seemed to be crushed. However, the Mie Rashomon seems to be like a piece of paper, and it does not work at all. But it also gave Orochimaru a chance to breathe. After summoning the triple Rashomon, his hand seal's hands not only did not stay at all, but hand seal's speed was like a hurricane, turning over at a faster speed. When the third Rashomon shattered, the last magic seal also fell. Feeling the invisible impact that seemed to tear his body to pieces, Orochimaru roared like madness without any hesitation. The art of psychic, 10,000 snakes. At the moment of life and death, Orochimaru's mind can think of his strongest psychic means. It is also a psychic beast who is also his friend and foe. A huge purple body emerged like a mountain. The white fog was lingering, and the moment he sensed Orochimaru's call, Wan Shi was in a secretly happy mood. After all, according to the contract between Orochimaru and it, for every psychic call, at least 100 living people must be prepared to offer matsuri afterwards. This is the best ration for Wan Shi. Therefore, as soon as he appeared, and he was still in the space, Wan Shi couldn't help but opened his mouth and threw out cold and cruel words. Orochimaru, you dare to interfere with this uncle's rest. If there is nothing important, I will kill you. Don't forget, the agreement between us, I'm willing to come out, but you have to prepare 100, no, 200 live matsuri for me afterwards, or this uncle will kill you. The rolling voices, with an unquestionable taste, exploded like thunder. However, before Wan Shi got Orochimaru's response, the first scene she saw made her look stunned. Orochimaru, who has always been feminine and played with him full of conspiracies, jumped directly into its mouth with a little kid at the moment when his mouth opened. It felt as if from the very beginning, it had taken this opportunity and couldn't wait to become its ration. In the face of this sudden scene, Wan Shi was not yet happy. A death-like aura, on its sharp tail vertebra, quickly rolled away from its body. After waiting for a sudden reaction, the sight of the scene shook its nerves. Holding Wanjun, the invisible repulsive force like a raging tide, without any fancy, rolled towards it head-on. The huge momentum caused the 10,000 snakes entrenched on the ground, like a hill, to be thrown straight out like a balloon. Without any suspense, it smashed heavily on the rock wall of thousands of meters. The next moment, a thunderous explosion sounded straight into the sky. The sand and dust that swept across the sky and spread out like a frenzy gave people the illusion of covering the sky and the sun, making the sky in all directions darkened. I don't know how long it took, until the sand and dust that filled the sky and the earth dissipated, and the huge funnel ruins, with Uchiha Chinyu as the center, quickly radiated to a radius of 10 kilometers. The town that originally covered 4 or 5 kilometers was turned into fly ash in an instant and completely razed to the ground. The trees and rocks along the way, along with the mountains in the distance, disappeared. The only traces that can prove their existence are only the messy debris left on the ground. Uchiha Chinyu, who had regained his senses and looked embarrassed. Quote. Chapter 350 Did you die once? Boom. A huge black shadow descended from the sky, accompanied by a dull thunder-like sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. The 10,000 snakes, like a rotten cloth bag, smashed to the ground heavily. Orangutan Yuhi splattered, as if he didn't want money, and a large amount of blood directly stained the ground of Yuhi several hundred meters. That originally looked abnormal, the body like a hill, and the scales that represented indestructible. Before the Shinra Tensei Almighty Push expedition, it gave people a feeling like paper paste, which did not play a role at all. The huge body, not to mention that the scales and armor were shattered, the flesh and bones all over the body, under the huge impact, the moment it smashed with the rock wall, it directly became smashed. In the past, it was famous in the ninja world. As the symbol of Orochimaru Sannin, it was signed from the dragon crypt, the most powerful snake. At this moment, it's all a pile of meat-chan. The pair of diamond-shaped snake eyes with a fierce gleam, barely twitched, opened their mouths with difficulty, and said intermittently, "Damn Orochimaru, dare to use this uncle as a shield, I will kill you." The ferocious words that returned to the light rolled away like thunder. However, the voices were exhausted, and the vitality of one snake was directly annihilated here. Uchiha Chinyu, who witnessed this scene, twitched the corner of his mouth. At the beginning, Chinyu thought that because of his indiscriminate entry, the fate of many people and things in the Hokage world would change. Unexpectedly, Wan Shi could not escape the fate of being pitted to death in the end. Moreover, more than 10 years earlier, he became the shortest-lived existence among the Sannin psychic beasts. Fortunately, it's the curse of Orochimaru, and it has nothing to do with me. Chinyu muttered to himself, and with a flicker of his figure, he quickly rushed towards Wan Shi's body. Before they got close, the slightly open mouth of the blood basin made a sound like a torn cloth, and soon I saw white bone spurs piercing out of it. The mouth that was slightly open was abruptly opened. A figure covered in broken bones and covered in blood, walked out of the mouth of the snake with a staggering pace. Seeing Kimimaro, who was not smashed into flesh, Chan by Shinra Tensei Almighty Push, Chinyu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. However, he was quickly pulled out of the snake's mouth by Kimimaro's hands, like a rotten sack. From the broken, blood-stained clothes, it could be vaguely seen that this should be the Orochimaru who became Flesh-chan. After all, the triple Rashomon, and the dead snakes, are all Orochimaru's defenses. With Kimimaro, it is obviously missing a layer of steel-like bone armor. A miracle if it didn't become meat-chan. Boss, I'm sorry, I failed, and I also implicated Orochimaru. Kimimaro said apologetically. In his eyes, if Orochimaru hadn't shot him at the last moment and pulled him into the mouth of one snake, he would not be able to resist this wave of shock with the current Kekkei Genkei and the bone armor he summoned. This made Kimimaro, who had fought against Orochimaru from the beginning, felt guilty. Hehe, have you forgotten my evaluation of Orochimaru? Chinyu reached out and rubbed Kimimaro's head and said with a smile, in this world, anyone can die, but absolutely no one can kill them completely. Orochimaru, look at his body. Hearing this, Kimimaro couldn't help but startled, remembering Chinyu's evaluation of Orochimaru in Wushan Town, he couldn't wait to look back. The first thing to notice is those wriggling meat-chan. The frequency of this creeping gradually increased from a small amplitude at the beginning. Orochimaru's body, which had been crushed into flesh, moved like a boneless snake. The tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, revealing the whites of the penetrating eyes, accompanied by the sound of retching, and the mouth of the blood basin split open at the same time. A pair of large, slender hands stretched out from Orochimaru's. With an extremely terrifying posture, he grabbed the upper and lower jaws, and the next moment suddenly exerted force to open it to both sides. The torn mouth, a wet body emerged, and under that familiar face, Kimamaro's face became extremely blue. Rao is Chin-Yu, and he is a little uncomfortable with Uncle Snake's resurrection method. It took more than half a minute for this disgusting ceremony to come to an end. That body covered in saliva stood in front of Chin-Yu and Kimamaro. But compared to their disgusting faces, Orochimaru still had lingering fears. If not at the last moment, forcibly overdraw all the potential of this undead reincarnated body, and carry out a cell reorganization and regeneration. I'm afraid, Orochimaru will be the same as one snake, become Meat-chan, and straight up pigtails. Turning back to look at the 10,000 snakes who had been trapped to death, God Orochimaru sighed and then looked at Chin-Yu and said, I should barely pass the test. I really doubt if they can pass the test if they all die once. Recalling the brief fight just now, Orochimaru was still vivid in his mind, and he couldn't help but vomit. However, it was precisely because of this life and death that Orochimaru felt a little more fortunate in his heart. I'm glad that I didn't act recklessly, and fought against Chin-Yu head-on. I am afraid that no matter what method is used, it will eventually be a dead end. I said that I can take the next move, no matter what method I use. Chin-Yu looked at Orochimaru. As Kimamaro said, at the last minute, if Orochimaru hadn't helped him, he wouldn't have made it either. But it is precisely because of this reason that Chin-Yu's views on Orochimaru have changed slightly. Perhaps, the current Orochimaru is not like the Orochimaru who has been insensitive after more than 10 years in the original book. As in the original book, when the 3 generations of Hokage were killed, a comment was given. Killing the teacher will still make you feel sad. This proves that Orochimaru, who is missing Nin, still has a trace of sanity. However, there have also been many speculations in the original book. Chin-Yu had also suspected that every time Orochimaru split a seal of heaven and earth, he was trying to strip a trace of his conscience. In the original, Orochimaru was killed once by Sasuke and sealed once by Uchiha Itachi. At that time, Orochimaru was still full of greedy thoughts towards Sasuke's young body. However, after Sasuke cursed Mitarashi Anko and resurrected Orochimaru's personality has changed. It can be said that the character is completely whitewashed. Completely contradicts Shueiyu's speculation. Has always liked to destroy the Konoha shinobi village, but he is no longer interested in the ninja world war. Obviously in Kabuto's body, he regained his power and successfully regained his hands, but opened his mouth and said that he lost interest in Sasuke's body. The end, he also helped Sasuke summon the Hokage of all dynasties, and even rushed to the battlefield to save Tsunade. Chapter 341 _ A Blessing in Disguise Ninja World. This kind of behavior completely subverts the original character of Orochimaru. It made Chin-Yu extremely suspicious that Orochimaru secretly brought a little loli like Mitarashi Anko to the uninhabited small fishing village before he defected from Konoha Ninja Village and did something unknown to others. If Chin-Yu guessed correctly, Orochimaru should also know how to strip out something similar to will, and inject it into Mitarashi Anko's curse as the last survivor. At the same time, it also strengthens his cruel heart to pursue science. Okay, I said, no matter what means, as long as you take a move from me, you can become my companion. Chin-Yu dispelled the thoughts in his mind, looked at Orochimaru, and said, I don't care about you. Yes, what human experiments are carried out, are so-called clones. I hope you have a degree. If it goes too far, I don't mind cleaning the door. After all, there are no rules and no circles. Before you join me, how you like to act is your business, but when you become my person and get my blessing, you need to set a bottom line. Having said this, Chinyu subconsciously looked up at the moon in the sky and said, however, don't worry, maybe in a month, maybe a year, maybe 2 or 3 years later, I will leave this world, this time it is decided. The so-called covenant will soon be invalid. Quote. Transforming Mangekyo into Rinnegan, this inexplicable fate made it feel even stronger. Perhaps, this time, going to Konoha Ninja Village for the so-called Five Shadows talks will get the result Chinyu finally pursued. Why suddenly, came to the world of Hokage. A series of questions about what came to this world, etc., will also be solved. Boss, do you think the agreement will expire? Kimimaro was startled for a moment, showing a look of confusion, and couldn't help saying, in this world, who will be your opponent? Also, whoever you are qualified to kill you, I am afraid that the entire ninja world can't do it together. To Kimimaro's words, Orochimaru nodded indiscreetly. After seeing with his own eyes, Uchiha Chinyu's many battles, and after suffering a lot from the attack that was like a mighty heaven just now, Orochimaru is even more convinced of Kimimaro's words. However, in the face of their understanding, Chinyu just smiled indifferently and did not make any further explanation. His eyes turned suddenly, and he landed on the ruins and flat ground not far away, and he could vaguely see several figures galloping towards him. It's the ants from Kusanagi village, do you need me to kill them? Orochimaru licked Yuhi's tongue. Having suffered so much in Chinyu's hands just now, he was so depressed that he had nowhere to vent. Well now, someone hit the gun. However, as soon as this idea came to mind, Orochimaru felt 2 unbridled gazes. And Kimimaro's faint voice made him turn over Byakugan. Don't mess around, or I'll cut you off. Little devil, you are really arrogant, don't forget, I am the same as you now, I rolled up my sleeves and fucked with you. Orochimaru grinned and stuck out his tongue, said jokingly. Seeing the two fighting like children, Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly and said, okay, don't worry about them, let's go. From here to Konoha Ninja Village, it will take a lot of time. Abandoning these words, Chinyu took the lead in disappearing out of thin air. Kimimaro and Orochimaru, who were in a fight, hurried back to their senses, shouting and hurriedly chasing after them. After the 3 of them left, after 5 or 6 minutes, 3 figures descended from the sky and landed in the center of the ruins. Ma Dongyi, did you really see Lord Chinyu here just now? Wu Wei looked around, and there was a hint of inexplicable shock on his face. On the way here, I haven't approached this 10-mile battle circle. He witnessed it with his own eyes, it was like a blow from heaven. Especially on the way forward, everything I saw was razed to the ground. This visual impact is even more terrifying. Ma Dongyi turned pale and nodded, and said, my Grand Master senses ninjutsu, and I sensed Lord Chinyu's chakra fluctuations within a few miles. Originally, I was planning to get close, but I didn't expect that a huge impact suddenly occurred, and 3 doors that seemed to come from hell were channeled out. And then, there is a big snake as huge as a hill. In this invisible impact, it is as vulnerable as paper. The voice of Chang's words reverberated on the ruins, making Wu Wei's face pale, and cold sweat oozes out of his forehead, his Adam's apple rolled down, and he couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. After seeing the ruins with my own eyes and hearing Ma Dongyi's narration, he still had a lingering feeling in his heart. If Ma Dongyi didn't have Maiden Shade style, he would have absorbed most of the impact at a critical time. He was just a few miles away, and I'm afraid he would also end up with a whimper. Wu Wei, it seems that we should mention the process as soon as possible, before the Konoha Shinobi Village holds the Five Shadows Conference. Ma Dongyi returned to his senses, glanced at Wu Wei, and said very solemnly. After Wu Wei fell into a brief silence, he nodded in agreement and said, we only have 3 days left, so we can only use that method. With the decision of Wu Wei and Ma Dongyi, the hurricane that was only plaguing the 5 major countries began to spread to the rest of the small countries. Meanwhile, the village of Sunagakur is a few miles away. 2 figures, one after the other, quickly passed through the forest, and the leader was Pakura, who was known as the hero of Sunagakur village in the past. He was followed by Ebizo, a senior advisor to the village of Sunagakur. However, there was no verbal communication between the two. Do not. It should be said that during this period of time, Ebizo told Pakura some bad jokes many times. However, after the initial response, the closer you get to Sunagakur village, the less and less responses you get. In the end, Pakura fell into complete silence, making this humble team become inexplicably dead. Seeing that it was only a few miles away from Sunagakur village, Ebizo raised his lips and couldn't help but say, "Pakura, this time, you are going back to Sunagakur village, do you have other feelings?" In normal times, even if it's not in times of war, we will always be on the lookout for all kinds of assassinations and sneak attacks in our villages. However, I have been very peaceful recently along the way. I heard that other ninjas on missions have not been disturbed by the other 4 ninja villages. Do you think it is the credit of Uchiha Chinyu? The slightly sluggish, deliberate chatter reverberated in the woods, which undoubtedly had an effect, causing Pakura's pace to pause for a moment. This scene, Ebizo's face couldn't help but flash a hint of joy. Without thinking about it, he quickly chased up and said, "You say, is the ninja world a blessing in disguise because of the appearance of Uchiha Chinyu? Not only did the 3rd end prematurely the ninja world war, even because of him, had to hold the 5 shadow talks. Although the first meeting was a failure, it is now proposed by the 3rd generation Hokage Sarutobi of Konoha Shinobi Village that the 5 shadows meeting will have a great chance of being a successful alliance." Chapter 352 _ Who is the Savior? If Uchiha Chinyu is willing to attend the talks, once all parties reach a consensus, under the mutual checks and balances, perhaps the 5 major countries will become extremely cautious about provoking wars. At that time, the ninja world should usher in a period of comparison. It's been a long time of peace. Ebizo spat stars everywhere. At this moment, he just wanted to ease the atmosphere in the field, make enough foreshadowing, and prepare for the next speech. However, before these words were exhausted, Pakura's stride stopped abruptly, looked back at Ebizo, and said, "Teacher, you said, because of the appearance of Uchiha Chinyu, the ninja world has seen a ray of peace. But, don't you think it's ridiculous? In the eyes of the 5 major countries, he is just a missing nin, a common enemy of a predatory beast. In front of this enemy that cannot be dealt with alone, the 5 great ninja villages, which have been fighting for decades, had to put down their prejudices and jointly hold the 5 Shadows Conference to usher in the so-called peace. Then, teacher, who do you think is the savior?" Having said that, Pakura stared straight at Ebizo. "Is it Uchiha Chinyu who is missing, nin, or the 5 great ninja villages that are known as a big country and formed for their own interests?" The slightly threatening voice echoed in the forest, causing Ebizo's expression to change slightly. The old bark face couldn't help but twitch for a few times. As Pakura said, the heights you stand are different, the things you do, and the angles are also different. Just as in the eyes of the 5 ninja villages, Uchiha Chinyu may be missing nin, but in the eyes of Pakura, it is to let the 5 ninja villages put aside their prejudices and join forces to fight the enemy. Let the chaotic ninja world get a short-term and even long-term peaceful savior. Perhaps, this is what is right and what is wrong, not because one person can explain it clearly. Pakura, that's enough. After a brief silence, Ebizo sighed faintly and said, "Old sister just informed me that Rasa and the others have made up their minds after you came back. If you can, I hope you don't go back to Sunagakur village, stay by Uchiha Chinyu's side, and no one can hurt you." Half a day ago, Ebizo secretly borrowed a puppet crow for Chio and Maki, and passed on everything that happened on the road. I thought that he personally came forward, and Pakura took the initiative to return to Sunagakure village, which would make the high-level concessions slightly. However, after getting Chiyo's answer, Ebizo realized that he overestimated his own face, and underestimated the importance of his own lies and face to the senior officials of Sunagakure village. The affirmative answer from Chiyo, Ebizo has been thinking hard about how to find a chance to persuade Pakura to leave. Unfortunately, in the end, after exhausting all means, I could only go straight to the topic. Teacher, I understand what you mean. Just like my mood when I returned to Sunagakure village now, when I was a hero in the past, I went back to face everyone with an eager heart. Pakura looked bleakly at Sunagakure village. Direction, said, however, this time I was treated as a hero, but because of Uchiha Chinyu's nosy, he accidentally pierced the hero's lie. Are you saying that this is my sorrow, or the sorrow of Sunagakure village? I know what you're worrying about. Are you worried about the killing that Sunagakure village set for me, and what Uchiha Chinyu gave me? Having said that, Pakura took out the scroll Chinyu gave her and threw it to Ebizo, saying, however, even if I die, I will still do some things. If the teacher is worried that I will bring disaster to Sunagakure village, I don't want this scroll, I just hope that the teacher can let me finish the last journey and let me do the last thing. The violent scene made Ebizo shudder. As Pakura said, as a teacher, the persuasion just now was for the safety of the students. However, there is also a trace of selfishness in my heart. Was also worried that the unclear relationship between Pakura and Uchiha Chinyu would bring disaster to Sunagakure village. In particular, the thought of the scroll that didn't know what to do made him worry secretly. However, Ebizo never imagined that Pakura would hand over her only and most likely life-saving scroll in this situation and juncture. This sudden move was completely beyond his understanding. Pakura, this. Ebizo glanced at the scroll in his hand, and there was an urge to repay. However, when I think of the worry, it is obvious that I can't hold back. Seeing the firmness and determination on Pakura's face, Ebizo's face flashed a trace of struggle, then he sighed softly, and grabbed Pakura with his backhand. Okura, don't blame the teacher is also for your own good. If you don't do it now, when will you wait? The old screams exploded like thunder. Ebizo's withered 5 fingers moved towards Pakura and caught them from the air, and the special steel wires like hair strands turned into chakra threads. With an unusually agile posture, he quickly wrapped around Pakura's body. At the same time, the 2 figures hidden in the dark also quickly rushed out. Kazekijirasa's fiancée for 4 generations. As soon as she appeared, her hands flew quickly, forming a series of magic seals. Looking at the moment when the steel wire in Ebizo's hand was smoothly wrapped around Pakura's body, she snorted and drank. Sandstorm shackles. If we say that the 3 generations of Kazekage are born with the ability to control iron sand. 4 generations of Kazekage Rasa, with the gift of gold dust. So the biggest reason why Rasa looked at Gallo was that she had a talent for manipulating sand. In Rasa's eyes, since his gold dust can suppress a shukaku, it only needs to be combined with Gallio, who has a slightly inferior, Grandmaster control sand. Among the descendants born, it is very likely that there will be more powerful ninjas who display the sand escape. Once that time comes, they don't have to worry about the people in Sunagakure village who Jinchuriki, column force Bunpuku to die, and one tail appears berserk. Even if I can successfully suppress Yue afterwards and seal him up again. However, this will also make the overall military strength of Sunagakure village, because of the loss of the tailed beast weapon, a new fracture layer will appear. It is because of these kinds of unfavorable factors that Rasa approached Gallio to carry out this premeditated political marriage. Therefore, in the original work, Gaara has the talent of sand escape as soon as he appears. Among the 3 brothers and sisters, he is the only one selected to become the sad person Jinchuiki column force. After seeing it with his own eyes, Gaara, as a human Jinchuriki column, went berserk, and even ordered Yashimaru, his uncle, to assassinate him. This is enough to prove that Rasa is ruthless. Chapter 353_Madam, I'm here by myself. Boom. The rolling quicksand rushed out of the small gourd around Galyuro's waist. Under the frenzied infusion of chakra, it turned into quicksand tentacles in the blink of an eye, and went straight to Pakura to catch it. At the same time, Yashimaru didn't hesitate, took out the medical intoxication needle and stabbed it directly on Pakura's neck. It all seemed very complicated, but it was only a few short breaths between when Ebizo erupted, and when Galyuro and Yashimaru shot. It can be said that although this is a temporary initiative, all cooperation are like flowing water, and there is no fuss. Even if Pakura can react, in a hurry, he wants to mobilize the Shikuden, scorch-style chakra in his body to fight back, but there is absolutely no chance to do so. However, this idea of success just sprouted in their minds. The next moment, the anesthesia needle in Yashimaru's hand pierced Pakura's skin. Pakura, who had been captured by them instantly, exploded like a balloon. Boom. The white smoke rolled back, giving people a feeling of being caught off guard, looking at the various means of capture that were all of a sudden lost. The three people present were obviously stunned. After a few seconds, Galio was the first to wake up and said in a hurry, "This is Shadow Clone. Kokura has already discovered that we are following, and secretly used Shadow Clone tricks. We are all fooled." Ebizo's expression also changed suddenly. Looking at the scroll that hadn't disappeared in his hand, he couldn't help stomping his steps, and sighed darkly. "This girl, we know we don't want her to die, so we have to use this. This means, I don't even have a scroll now. If I encounter Rasa, it will be self-inflicted." Hearing these words, Galyuru, who hurriedly came to stop him secretly, his face suddenly turned ashen, and he didn't have time to think about it, and hurriedly rushed to Sunagakure village. "Lao Hai, now is not the time to regret it. We should hurry back. If we can get there in time, maybe Pakura will still have a little bit of life." Seeing Galyuro rushing out in a hurry, Ebizo and Yashimaru looked at each other, and they hurriedly ran after him without thinking about it. Sunagakure village, surrounded by rocks on all sides, remained motionless in the wind, and sand rolled up from time to time. After the sun and rain, there are still traces of attacks left by various wars, which spread across the entire rock wall shell. Give this ninja village, which is struggling to support in the desert, the feeling of adding a few minutes of precipitation. An agile figure passed through the rolled-up sand and rushed towards the open path into the village like a non-stop. This trail, in normal times, especially during wars, is an important passage to and from Sunagakure village. Has a squad led by the resident Jonin, and the elite Anbu. The secret enchantment class located in Sunagakure village, formed a triple defense, so that Sunagakure village is equipped with this rock wall eggshell built over many years. Let Sunagakure village completely have the title of Iron Wall. Unless it is disintegrated from the inside, facing this eggshell village that is easy to defend and difficult to attack, to a certain extent, even Konoha Shinobi village cannot compare with it. However, this time, as soon as Pakura set foot on the entrance to the village, he clearly noticed that the Jonin team and the Anbu elite who were originally stationed around were completely gone. Facing this seemingly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a trace of self-deprecation appeared on Pakura's icy cheeks. She knew very well that this was just a trick of Rasa to invite Kun into the urn. If she really needs to be careful, I am afraid that she is worried that putting heavy defenses here will make her stay away and just stay outside. Or turn around and leave at the juncture, making his plan impossible to proceed. At the same time, as long as she enters Sunagakure village, she can cut off her connection with Uchiha Chinyu to a certain extent. Undoubtedly, the odds of winning can be maximized. However, these kinds of calculations, for the current Pakura, everything is no longer important. She turned her eyes in vain and passed through the long and narrow corridor, as if she could already see the purpose of her trip. Originally set foot in the old place again, the slightly nervous state of mind dissipated like a tide, and after taking a deep breath, walked towards Sunagakur village. "You bastard!" Rasa's voice echoed across the large clearing across the entrance to the village. The look of the densely packed ninjas all around changed suddenly. This piece of open space is thousands of meters long, in order to facilitate monitoring. Once someone can break through the 3 lines of defense for entering the village, and after passing through the long and narrow passage, they will also come to this open space without anything to hide. Anbu ninjas stationed here, or the team on duty. However, this time the huge open space has obviously changed its purpose. Hundreds, even thousands of ninjas urgently summoned, so that the people in the village could smell something wrong. Rasa, who seemed to be furious like thunder, no one dared to speak up and ask questions. They could only subconsciously cast their eyes on those high-level executives who seemed to know the inside story. The intention is to use this to figure out the reason for this gathering in advance. "You bastard, bastard!" Rasa drank angrily, and the splash of spit was almost sprayed all over Maki's face. If it wasn't for the impression of being in front of everyone's eyes, I'm afraid Rasa would have wanted to, stretched out a finger and pressed it desperately on Maki's forehead. "Didn't I tell you to be optimistic about Galuluo? She is missing for no reason now. She must have gone to tip off the news. This will only ruin our plan, and it will also plant the seeds of collapse for the unity of our Sunagakur village. Can you take that responsibility?" Rasa growled hysterically. "What are you still doing here? Hurry up and find it for me and get Galuro back, if our plan is ruined because of her. Not to mention Galuro is my fiancé, and also will be marked as missing." Nin's identity. Anbu ninja who was guarding around also changed slightly. For them, this is simply a disaster. However, as a subordinate, facing Kage's orders, even if he eats shit, he can only bite the bullet. What's more, staying here is just like Maki, being scolded and scolded by pointing at his forehead. It would be better to take this opportunity to leave the field. However, just as this idea came to their minds, the next moment they saw Chio closing his eyes and resting, and suddenly opened his eyes. In the turbid old eyes, there was a gleam of light, and she didn't wait for her to speak. An unexpected voice suddenly came out. "Rasa, you're still a fake coon. Don't scold Maki, I'm here myself." Chapter 354 The Wicked Report First. "Madam, I'm here in person." The small voices exploded like thunder at this moment. Such sturdy words, that old lady, simply hit the depths of a person's soul. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be straightforward and straightforward. The moment it fell, it directly attracted the attention of everyone in the field, and all of them turned around, locking in the only entrance. That frail figure, which seemed to be long overdue, fell into the sight of everyone, causing many people's pupils to shrink suddenly. It's the hero Pakura. It's Pakura-senpai. It's Kokura back. Teacher, you are finally back. The exclamations one after another echoed in the crowd. A figure only 6 or 7 years old rushed out of the crowd. The sudden scene made Pakura's expression change slightly, and he couldn't help shouting at the first, "True tree, don't come here, stop quickly." The inexplicable reminder made the pace of the real tree stagnate. The next moment, the awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the air, like a training like kunai, preemptively nailed it in front of the real tree. The violent scene made the scene suddenly quiet. Because of Pakura's appearance, the excitement seemed to be poured into a basin of cold water. Looking at the kunai that was originally nailed to Mashu's shoulder, because of Pakura's reminder, there was a stagnation, and the attack that was unexpectedly avoided, many people's pupils shrunk slightly. Subconsciously, following the trajectory of the attack, what came into view was the fourth-generation Kazekage Rasa with a gloomy face like water. Looking at the crowd that fell into calm in an instant, Rasa's face suddenly turned cold, and he roared sharply. "Very good, you really take her as a hero, bastards. Don't forget, this woman is no longer the hero of our Sunagakure village, betrayed us from her, and colluded with Konoha missing nin Scarlet Ashura, has become the main culprit in destroying the friendship and peace between us and the village of Kurigakure. Quote. Now, she is just the missing nin of our Sunagakure village, and she threatened to return to our Sunagakure village today, which is a trampling on our desire for peace, and a mockery of our respect for her as a hero." The rolling voices, like thunder, echoed in the heaven and the earth for a long time, and there was no way to disperse. Facing this scene of the wicked suing first, Pakura had already anticipated it in his heart, but after seeing it with his own eyes, a sad smile appeared on his pretty face. Sad eyes swept across the field. However, the atmosphere that was originally sensational was filled with inexplicable depression at this moment. Down with missing nin Pakura. Pakura ruined our reverence for her hero. She is the sinner who destroyed our peace. We have to kill her and give an account to the village of Kurigakure, otherwise we will never usher in real peace. One after another hysterical roars came out from the crowd. Seeing the repeated roars in response, Rasa's eyes filled with a smile. The higher-ups standing behind him were silent. They clearly knew that all these roaring words were not the sincere words of those people, but a pawn that Rasa had inserted in advance and stirred up. "Kill Pakura, she's a sinner, let's hurry up." A fat, infrequently named Sunagakure took the lead with a loud voice. With a backhand poking around his waist, a series of shuriken hurled towards Pakura. The violent scene clearly formed the beginning of a chain reaction. One after another figure, like a wild dog smelling meat, rushed out. In their eyes, Pakura was still a hero a moment ago, so what they need is respect. But now, in the face of the huge gap in identity between the hero and the missing nin, it is obvious that a mentality like beating the underdog has arisen. Dozens, hundreds of people moved. In an instant, the seemingly trivial shuriken throw turned into a dense rainstorm. With a dense posture, he fell head-on towards Pakura. For a time, that feeling can already be described with a gesture that covers the sky and the sun. The violent scene made Rasa, who was standing on the commanding heights, show a smile. Looking deep in Pakura's eyes, a trace of inexplicable urgency flashed. What he wanted to see most now was that Pakura couldn't help but shoot. Once she really makes a move, the so-called trumped-up charges will be completely confirmed. Thinking of this, Rasa's heart seemed to be tightly clenched by an invisible big hand. Seeing the sad smile on Pakura's face, his mind moved. The sad smile on Pakura's face was replaced by determination. Looking at the shuriken that fell from the sky like a torrential rain, Pakura didn't have any hesitation, his hands suddenly hand-seal, endless chakra in his body, like a galloping tiger and leopard rushing out. The next moment, they gathered in the palm of their hands and quickly transformed into two huge flame spheres, which exploded in front of everyone's eyes. Shikuden, scorch-style, fireball burst. Boom. The two fireballs that came out of their hands, after rushing out more than 10 meters, collided with the kunai who was attacking from the sky. With the sound of a thunderous explosion, the hot steam rolled up, and the blast wave instantly overturned the kunai and the shuriken that hit him. There was a large amount of dust and steam rolling back, covering Pakura's figure. However, it was not time for them to react. A figure as agile as a tiger and leopard rushed out in the dust and steam. Like a sharp arrow, it rushed straight towards the encirclement of the selected crowd. This time, Pakura obviously chose the place with the smallest number of people and the weakest overall strength to carry out the assault. Only here can Pakura be able to do the best possible to get to where she is going. However, this messy idea just sprouted in Pakura's mind, and before she could react, Rasa's laughter sounded like crazy. Haha, did you see it? This is the ugly face of the hero of the past. She not only resisted, but also planned to attack you. This kind of sinner can't be let go. The sound of the rolling words came out, and Rasa's right hand suddenly raised, roaring loudly. Anbu, catch her for me. Anbu, who was lurking in the crowd, rushed out like a ghost and rushed towards Pakura. Before getting close, his hands quickly flipped, forming a series of spell marks. When the last magic seal fell, the shouting in unison shook Pakura's nerves even more. Confinement technique puppet killing. Kaka. A sudden sound came out. Away from Pakura, and the soil quickly rolled away, like ants, and Mishu's huge body broke out of the ground. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he stormed away towards Pakura. Chapter 355-Ingenious. Imprisonment. Pakura's expression changed suddenly, and when he saw the figure that broke out from the ground, like a ghost, and approached quickly, there was a slight pause in his footsteps. All the Shikuden, scorched style, she can have, the biggest role is to use high-temperature steam to kill. Once the enemy hit by her Shikuden, scorched style, the water and blood in the body will evaporate instantly and become a mummified corpse. However, as her old club, it was Rasa's premeditated plan. To restrain Pakura's Shikuden, scorched style, minimize the damage, and use the puppet technique to melee attack is obviously the best countermeasure. Moreover, this shot seems to be a luxurious lineup. Dozens of puppets burst into flames, making Pakura unable to react for a while. The only way is to subconsciously burst the Shikuden, scorched style, chakra poured into his hands into ultimate. Boom! The thunderous explosion sounded again, and under the huge impact, several puppets that were a little closer were directly overturned. However, in the face of those dozens, Pakura is hailed as the hero of Sunagakure village. An elite ninja slightly inferior to Kakashi in the original work. Faced with so many puppets who restrain themselves at one time, it is obviously powerless. Seeing that the blast of air in the sky dissipated, the sound of the clattering machine turning, tightened her nerves even more. Before he could think about it, he bit Kiba and took out several detonating talismans with his backhand, intending to use the blast of air to get a chance to escape the encirclement. The next moment, the ground beneath my feet moved without wind, and the rolling yellow sand, like a blooming sunflower, suddenly bloomed, forming an absolute defense. Bang bang bang. The puppet that was about to succeed, Yu Wei, directly slammed into the yellow sand. The seemingly loose sand body structure, at this moment, gave people an inexplicable solid taste, like a copper wall. Some puppets with too fast impulses and too strong strength were even smashed into smashes under a single glance. The sudden scene changed not only Rasa's expression, but also Pakura. Before he could detonate the detonating talisman in his hand, he hurriedly turned his head and saw that it was Galuro who had arrived in a hurry. Shao Kang. Galuro took a deep breath, looking at the scattered puppets, intending to organize an offensive again. With a drastic change in his face, he shouted in a hurry, "Shao Kang, hurry up, I will give you the rear. Escape." As soon as these words fell, the expressions of the ninjas onlookers in the field could not help but stagnate. In their eyes, Galio is the fiancé of the fourth generation of Kazekage Rasa. However, the two who were originally on the same front were confronted for a Pakura chamber. Such a scene is rather intriguing. Galuro, you're really going to do bad things to me. As Kazecage's fiancé, you actually help a missing nin. This is a capital crime. Rasa roared, the blue veins on his neck were highlighted, and he looked extremely ferocious. As terrifying as a crocodile who chooses people and is addicted to it. Now, I'm thinking of your past credits, get me back immediately. And what you did just now can also be written off. otherwise you will also be regarded as missing nin, and you will be directly killed here. The thunderous roar echoed between heaven and earth, causing Pakura's complexion, who was guarding in the yellow sand, to change dramatically. Looking at Galuro with a determined face, Pakura took out the detonating talisman with his backhand and went straight to the yellow sand wall that was protecting him. The violent scene fell into Galuro's eyes, his expression changed drastically, and he shouted in a hurry, "Pakura, don't mess around, you don't have Uchiha Chinyu, the scroll given to you is not Rasa's opponent at all." Boom! The sound of the explosion suddenly sounded, instantly covering up Galio's words. Under the rolling explosion, the wall composed of yellow sand was instantly penetrated. An embarrassed figure was directly thrown out under the impact of the blast wave. However, in this suicidal act, and from a calculated perspective, it played an unexpected role. That thin figure instantly broke through the defense line of the puppet army controlled by Anbu. He hit the ground heavily and rolled for more than 10 meters, without any hesitation. With the blood of the orangutan Yuhi at the corner of his mouth, he quickly rushed into the crowd. At this moment, the tenacity and persistence that Pakura gave them made those who witnessed it stunned for a moment. Even Chiyo, who had been standing idly by, couldn't help sighing softly. As the top advisor of Sunagakure village, she has been hiding behind the scenes since the murder of her son Konoha White Fang and the disappearance of her grandson Sasori of the Red Sand for no reason. If it weren't for this, Rasa told her about the Sasori of the Red Sand this time. She was too lazy to run out and walked through the muddy water. Originally, in Chiyo's eyes, notifying Ebizo in advance was a great favor and question. Afterwards, I just watched all this with the mentality of watching the play. However, seeing Pakura's tenacity and perseverance that didn't know where it came from moved her slightly. The moment he sighed faintly, he looked at the ant puppets scattered all around, and mobilized them again in Anbu's hands. Chiyo's hands stretched out instantly and grabbed directly from the air. One after another chakra threads rushed out like a frenzy, and the two scrolls around the waist exploded, directly transforming into two puppets, and they stopped behind Pakura one step ahead. The violent scene originally made Rasa's face flash a hint of joy, but seeing that Chiyo turned out to help Pakura, intentionally or unintentionally stopped those puppets, forming an effective encirclement. There was a hint of resentment on that hideous expression. "Consultant Chiyo, you don't need to bother with this kind of thing. Since I gave Pakura the title of hero, I will take it back today." Rasa growled fiercely. As soon as these words fell, Chiyo immediately cried out that something was wrong. She originally planned to use the puppet to help Pakura secretly. I want to see why Pakura, who has been persistently moving forward after being convicted of false charges by Rasa, wants to go where he wants to go. Or what is the purpose? However, Chiyo never imagined that Rasa, who has been holding the identity of Cage for 4 generations and has not been shot for a long time, will be violent at this moment. As the consultant of Sunagakure village, Rasa became one of the heads of the 4 generations of Cage after the approval. Chiyo knew exactly where Rasa's strength was. If you really want to say, in the current Sunagakure village, Chiyo claims to be the strongest puppet master. Then Rasa is the strongest Sunagakure. In the face of his gold dusting technique, even her proud puppet technique, Juziman, is slightly inferior. The current situation is obviously counterintuitive. Chapter 356 Jiden, Magnet Style, Gold Dust Imperial Funeral. Okura, hurry up, don't go any further, Galuro exclaimed anxiously. As Rasa's fiancé, although this is a political marriage, Galio also clearly knows Rasa's character. Especially these few times, because of the evolution of Pakura, Galio knows more clearly about Rasa's dark side. Now that he can't attack for a long time, Consultant Chiyo's secret shot obstructs, obviously forcing Rasa to take the last step. However, in the face of Galuro's reminder, Pakura still didn't stop at all. Her eyes seemed to pass through the human wall and were locked on her target. Okay, very good, since you were looking for death, don't blame me for not thinking about the old feelings. As the fourth generation of Kazekage, today I will show you what the power of the shadow is. Rasa looked ferocious, and the moment he roared, his hands suddenly clasped together. Under the highlight of the ferocious blue veins on the neck, the chakra that burst out like a frenzy detonated. Jident magnet style, gold dust. Boom. Rasa's hands snapped to the ground. The ground under his feet was the first to appear in a turbulent stance like quicksand, and the scene where he shot with all his strength made Chiyo's complexion suddenly change. However, before Chiyo could react, the rock formations in the entire clearing rolled up like waves. The golden sand gushed out in the tumbling. The next moment, the rolling roar brought up gold dust like a huge wave, setting off a wave of 7 or 8 meters high, which was photographed head-on to Pakura. Placer gold, which is denser, heavier, and more defensive than ordinary sand. Although the consumption of chakra will also increase, once a large-scale attack is performed, even Yue can easily suppress it. Not to mention, just know the Pakura of Shikuden, scorched style. It can be said that Rasa was able to stand out from many competitors and got the position of the fourth generation of Kazekage, which is Jident magnet style gold dust, but it occupies 80% of the reason. Pakura, I'm going to see today, how did you break through this trick, without the scroll that Uchiha Chinyu gave you? I see what ability you have, go out alive, blame you, it's too stupid, follow along. Isn't it bad to be by Uchiha Chinyu's side? You have to run back to Sunagakure village and sway in front of my eyes. Rasa roared again and again. At this moment, it was as if victory had already been seen. However, just as this idea came into being, a coquettish shout resounded again. I saw the sweaty, panting Galuru. His hands quickly formed a magic seal, and he shot directly to the ground. Chadon Great Waterfall. Under the frenzied delivery of the desperate chakra, the ground originally covered with gold dust instantly appeared a stream of yellow sand like clear Izumi. Without any bells and whistles, he went straight to Rasa's control and slammed into the placer gold that Pakura photographed head-on. Looking at this sudden scene, Rasa's face changed suddenly, a haze flashed through his pupils, and he roared in anger. Okay, what a good Galuru, who has ruined my good things again and again, I'll show you today, let alone you, even if the king and Lao Su came, he wouldn't be able to save Pakura. Jident magnet style, gold dust imperial funeral. Roaring again and again, bursting like thunder, and rolling away, the magic seal in Rasa's hand changed again. Under the crazy output of chakra, the entire open space, like a giant turning over, rolled up the sky of gold dust in all directions. The shape of that huge wave is much stronger than the gold dust wave that was displayed just a moment ago. From a distance, the wave after wave of gold dust waves was more than 10 meters high. Witnessing this scene, the melon-eating crowd who had already fled in all directions, as well as Galu Luo, who tried to block them, turned pale instantly. As Rasa said, the biggest gap between cage-level powerhouses and ordinary Jonin, and even elite Jonin, is the large-scale ninjutsu displayed in one breath. The face of Rasa's gold dust imperial funeral, it was a powerful blow. Everyone could not help but feel powerless in their hearts. However, no matter what thought appeared in his mind, everything in front of him was still not stagnant. The yellow sand, which was barely supported by Galuro, was like a stream of clear stream, but the gold dust that rolled down from the sky was instantly shattered. The attack from all directions grabbed Pakura's line of sight. The darkness was like a cold wave, making her feel like she had fallen into an ice cellar. Hearing the rolling roar of gold dust all around, and the hoarse roar from Galio that seemed impossible to overwhelm, Pakura smiled sadly and closed her eyes weakly. Perhaps, as Rasa said, her so-called hero title was just what Rasa gave her. In the face of unparalleled strength, any reason, goal, unyielding, stubbornness, persistence, dignity, all seem pale and powerless. In particular, a person is helpless and helpless, facing the waves of gold dust that swarmed from all directions, like endless accusations, slander, and humiliation. That moment, Pakura clenched tightly, and the survival tenacity that he was struggling to support was shattered like a mirror. At this moment, between heaven and earth, there seemed to be only the ear-shattering roaring collision. Boom! The endless gold dust, with a rolling gesture like the sky, instantly destroyed the yellow sand that Galura was struggling to support. The moment when all sides collided with a bang, the huge gold Uzumaki formed, and Pakura, who was in the center of the attack, seemed to sink and squeeze with all his might. This seemingly tedious scene is only a few minutes between before and after. The last gold placer stopped, a huge open space formed a huge gold placer Uzumaki with Pakura as the center. The heavy density, as well as the immeasurable gravitational backlog, was completely imposed on a thin and delicate body, and all resistance seemed pale. Seeing all this, Galio's expression instantly froze. The body, which had used all the strength, swayed and knelt heavily on the ground. Yashimaru and Ebizo, who rushed to the scene in a hurry, looked at the scene in front of them, their pupils shrank suddenly, and they were also full of disbelief as if they had been hit hard. It's all me. If it wasn't for my hands and feet, I could return this scroll to Shoukora in time, and she wouldn't have to die. Ebizo groaned sadly. Looking at the scroll in his hand, a ruthless expression flashed across his face. However, it was quickly snatched away by a figure who arrived like a ghost. The violent scene made Ebizo stunned at first, and when he could see clearly who was coming, he couldn't help but curse. Rasa, you bastard, you really don't remember your old feelings, can you do anything for your so-called face? Chapter 357 _ Make you into my collection. An old roar mixed with hysteria. Echoes in the heaven and earth for a long time there is no way to disperse. Rasa sneered, looked at the scroll in his hand, and laughed grimly. Everyone, have you seen it? This is the evidence of Pakura's collusion with Konoha missing Nin's blood-colored Ashura. I believe that this scroll is the medium of reverse psychic summoning. Once Pakura is brought close to the center of the village, it will be opened directly. At that time, Uchiha Chinyu will be waiting for us, the missing Nin group led by Attack. Now that Pakura has subdued, we should be cheering, we should be roaring and shouting in unison. The rolling voice seemed to have a hint of madness. Looked at the center of that Uzumaki, hot tears pouring out of his eyes, as if he couldn't stop them. However, as soon as the tears blurred her vision, the next moment, the whole person was startled for a moment, and she didn't have time to think about quickly wiping away the tears that represented sadness. Looking at the originally peaceful Uzumaki gold dust, Galio suddenly exclaimed. The gold dust is moving, Pakura, she's not dead. The sudden exclamation made Rasa, who was insane, look stagnant, and it was too late to hurriedly look at Uzumaki. Do not. It should be said that at this moment, whether it is Rasa, Chio, or everyone in the field, with all kinds of thoughts, they all look at the center of Uzumaki gold dust. Deep in the pupils, it is inevitable that there will be a trace of inexplicable urgency. After seeing Rasa's monstrous power of gold dust with their own eyes, they did realize the unparalleled strength of Cage level. But also eager to know how Pakura survived the gold dust imperial funeral. This idea, as soon as it sprouted in his mind, was like a seed that took root, quickly sprouting and growing, making those people's urgency more and more intense. The moment of entering the eye, the calm center of Uzumaki of gold dust made people startled at the same time. The next moment, the rustling noise echoed without warning in the gold dust Uzumaki. Moreover, this echoing sound, the more it reaches the end, the louder the sound. Before Rasa could figure out the situation, the huge gold dust Uzumaki seemed to be stirred quickly by a pair of invisible hands. The next moment, in the astonished eyes of everyone, there was an unbelievable scene. The black iron sand poured out from the gold dust, and it felt like it was being detonated like spraying Izumi. Among the large golden patches, the black sand looks out of place and is extremely unsightly at the same time. An unexpected figure flashed in everyone's mind. 3 generations of Kazekage. In their cognition, the only people who can use Jiden magnet-style iron sand, this rare Kekkei Genkei, are the long-lost 3 generations of Kazekage. And this time they started the Third Ninja War in Sunagakur village because of the disappearance of the 3rd generation of Kazekage. Now the endless iron sand is rushing out from the gold dust, and the golden sand sea is dyed black in the blink of an eye. Pakura, who should have been completely buried by gold dust imperial funeral, was sent to the ground unscathed. Seeing this scene, Rasa's cheeks couldn't help twitching. The victory that was originally achieved by hand was destroyed at the moment of the master's victory. How could he accept the gap between the front and the back? However, compared to Rasa's resentment of Chiyo and Ebizo who were standing beside him suddenly changed. For others, the appearance of iron sand is a reminiscence of 3 generations of Kazekage. But for those high-level executives who already know the inside story, iron sand is another synonym. Sasori, I didn't expect you to come back. Come out and let your mother-in-law see you. Chiyo sighed coldly. This violent scene instantly shattered the silence in the arena, and even Pakura, who had been holding a mortal heart, suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes in a hurry and looked at the scene in front of him with disbelief. In her eyes, abandoning the scroll Chinyu gave her was to prove that she did not want to implicate Uchiha Chinyu, and she was in a passive situation in the next 5 shadow talks held in Konoha Ninja Village. However, now that the scroll was not in use, it still brought an unexpected scene to her. In particular, this Sasori from Granny Chiyo's mouth is known as the Sasori of the Red Sand in Sunagakur village, which comes out once every 100 years. All this far exceeded Pakura's expectations. After all, this is someone who even 3 generations of Kazekage dared to hunt down, so she should not pay much attention to her mere Shikuden, scorched-style ninja. Sasori. Rasa suddenly woke up, his expression changed slightly, and he also shouted sharply, Perception ninja, immediately investigate, and don't let anything suspicious. This Sasori of the Red Sand is the culprit behind the assassination of the 3rd generation Kazekage, and is also the subordinate of Konoha missing nin Uchiha Chinyu. This appearance must be related to Pakura. They are missing nin who colluded together. The hysterical voice caused Anbu around him to sense the ninja's expression for a while, and hurriedly wanted to investigate. However, looking at Rasa's eyes, the next moment suddenly shrinks. Lord Kazekage, you, behind you. An Anbu ninja, the first to lose his breath, reminded anxiously. Behind. Rasa's expression suddenly changed, and he didn't have time to think about it, so he quickly pulled away and quickly retreated. At the same time, the backhand hand seal, a piece of gold dust hidden in the sleeve, instantly transformed into a sharp kunai, and stabbed Yashimaru directly behind. Faced with this violent blow, Yashimaru didn't seem to care about it at all. His neck twisted at a strange 180 degrees, and his mouth made a crackling sound. PFF'd. The strange scene made people feel caught off guard. The crisp sound of puffing made the fine sand skin on the surface peel off quickly. Under the watchful eyes of the public, a puppet appearance was revealed. An indifferent voice that came out of nowhere, instantly tense everyone's nerves. Rasa, you are still the same, you like to be a pseudo-kunzi, didn't you tell me that day that you are not interested in Kazecage's position at all, and you often tell me that the 3 generations are not worthy of the name. I didn't expect that I would complete the hunt for 3 generations one by one. You can't wait to take this seat. If I remember correctly, there were 3 generations of cage that day, but I said that I am more qualified to inherit this cage position than you. Your expression at that time has sold out your dark heart. Having said this, the puppet's head turned again, as if to meet Rasa's line of sight, and said, however, you have miscalculated one thing. I am not interested in this so-called cage position. I'm only interested in one thing, and I don't mind having you in my collection. Chapter 358 _ There are more than 2 missing nin. The slightly indifferent voice, at this moment, rolled back like a hurricane. Instantly tense the nerves of many people. In their eyes, this is completely a secret existence. All along, Rasa's image in front of people is that of being upright, responsible, courageous and capable. The breath it exudes is completely in line with the qualifications of a cage-level powerhouse. It is precisely for this reason that many people secretly regard Rasa as the ruler of the 4th generation of cage. However, Sasori of the Red Sand is also well known in Sunagakure village. It can be said that Sunagakure village has such a powerful puppet art today, and a huge part is due to the credit of Sasori of the Red Sand. Even the puppet ants used by Anbu just now are no exception. However, due to the quirks of Sasori of the Red Sand since he was a child, he has rarely been active in the outside world, but has been covered with a veil of mystery. No one would have expected that Rasa and Sasori of the Red Sand, 2 people who should have had little interaction, actually had this story. In the face of these scattered words, many eyes in the field could not help but lock on Rasa. Feeling the change in the atmosphere in the arena, Rasa's face was so gloomy that it was ultimate, and just as he stood firm, his right surgical seal changed, and he shouted loudly. Jidden magnet style, gold dust bondage. The gold dust scattered around was directly pulled up when Rasa frantically urged chakra. In the void, it transformed into a huge hand of more than 10 meters, and under the watchful eyes of the public, it directly grabbed the talking puppet. However, in the face of this violent blow, the puppet did not move at all, let alone resist. With a bang, the puppet was crushed to pieces in front of everyone's eyes. Looking at the puppet parts scattered around, Rasa's cheeks couldn't help twitching. Facing the Sasori of the Red Sand, crushing a puppet in his hand, but not being able to find his whereabouts, is a shame for him. Hee, you don't have to look for Rasa, I'm by Pakura's side. Sasori's indifferent voice sounded again. Like invisible tentacles, it affects everyone's nerves. Everyone present, without any hesitation, turned their eyes around, and instantly locked on Pakura's surroundings. Even Pakura himself had a feeling that he couldn't react. After all, she is also the elite Jonin of Sunagakure village, and can't even find a person close to her. How powerful is this means of hiding and disguising? However, this time, it was not yet to be pursued by everyone. A huge sand wave bubble emerged from the black sand and iron. Soon, an unexpected figure quickly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The robes of Yuhi-colored auspicious clouds, the Yuhi-colored hair, and the frozen face that will not age, made many people in the field suddenly shrink their pupils. However, no one would have thought that. Instead, it was a puppet suspended behind him in a strange posture. That familiar face was exactly the same as the one on Shadow Rock, and the identity of the 3 generations of cage was almost ready to be revealed. Sasori, you really are the murderer who killed 3 generations of cage, and you still dare to come back to Sunagakure village. Today I want you and Pakura, these 2 missing nins, to be unable to leave Sunagakure village for half a step. Rasa's expression suddenly changed. However, it was obvious that he had seized a chance for a riot. Originally, because of Galio's confrontation, Rasa became a bit passive, and many people's beliefs were shaken. However, the 3 generations of cage appearing right now have made him see a turning point. However, as soon as these words fell, Rasa saw a hint of indifference on Sasori of the Red Sand's face, and said, "Rasa, you are still so innocent. You are indeed the life-saving scroll that the boss gave this girl, but the boss also knows what this girl will do, so he has already issued a mobilization order to all of us. It can be said that there are more than 2 missing nin in Sunagakure village now." More than 2. As soon as these words fell, everyone's nerves suddenly tightened. They clearly knew that Konoha missing nin, the subordinate of Uchiha Chinyu, the blood-colored Asura, was a missing nin group. But I never thought that this time Pakura would recruit all the members. However, this idea just surfaced in their minds, and they didn't wait for them to react. Ghost-like figures quickly landed on Pakura's side. "Look, that's missing nin Taki Ninja Village, Kakuzu. That's Hidan, the godson of the Soup Kingdom, the godson of the undead. Iwagakure Village, missing nin Genius Ninja, Didera Bakuden, explosion-style ninja. The 7 ninja swordsmen, Broken Sword Biwajuzo. The 7 ninja swordsmen, Kisame Hoshigaki. These are the famous S-rank missing nin." The successive exclamations instantly revealed the identity of the visitor. Looking at this almost full-length lineup, Pakura's expression suddenly changed. She never thought that Uchiha Chinyu would give her such an order. The time she spent with Chinyu was not short, but it has always been rumored that he has a missing nin group under his command. However, Pakura has never seen such a collection. It can be said that the current situation is completely beyond Pakura's cognition. At this moment, an inexplicable warmth emerged from the originally hesitant and helpless mood. "Okay, very good, Sasori. I didn't expect that you not only betrayed our Sunagakure village, but also brought a group of missing nin to make trouble." Rasa's expression sank, and he took the lead in roaring. "Could it be, do you really think that this person alone can fight against our Sunagakure village? You still underestimate us as always." Rasa said this very cleverly, at least in the eyes of outsiders. It was Sasori of the Red Sand's contempt for their Sunagakure village. After all, 6 missing nin, intending to make trouble in Sunagakure village, one of the 5 great ninja villages. It does seem a little underestimated. It can be said that this kind of veiled provocation is Rasa's best attack. However, in the face of all this, Sasori of the Red Sand's expression still remains. It can be said that he has already transformed himself into a puppet. Not to mention frightening, even in the face of death, he would not change his face. After looking around the field, Sasori of the Red Sand met Rasa's gaze again. With a flip of the right hand, the cloak on his body is directly lifted, and a shirtless scene is performed. The violent scene made people's pupils shrink suddenly, and even Chiyo and Ebizo, who had already guessed, took a deep breath. Seeing that one, like a spear, was stained with venom and iron rope, wrapped around the abdomen of Sasori of the Red Sand, and the puppet-like joints made people feel even more horrified. "Sasori, I haven't seen you for so many years. You still haven't grown up at all, and as I imagined, you have transformed yourself into a puppet," Chiyo said in a deep voice. This remark also touched everyone's nerves. After all, the visual impact in front of him is too shocking. Chapter 359 I just want to do one thing. On the huge battlefield, there is an inexplicable depressing atmosphere. Looking at the unpredictable puppet body, many people felt that their spines were chilled, as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. In their eyes, puppets are a means of attack for puppet masters. But I never thought that one day, I would see a puppet with self-consciousness. If you don't see it with your own eyes, I'm afraid not many people are willing to believe it. Mother Chiyo, you're still the same, don't you like to teach me again? Sasori of the Red Sand gave Chiyo a light look and said, however, this time, I'm not here to meet you. This body, I have only used it twice. The first time was hunting 3 generations of Kazekage, and I succeeded. The second time, when I joined the missing nin group, I was defeated by the boss with one move. Although it was an unforgettable battle, I have to say that the boss's methods are not what you and I can imagine. If you can listen to me for once, I hope you, mother-in-law, don't try to be the enemy of the boss. Having said that, Sasori of the Red Sand paused for a while, looked at Rasa, and took out the third scroll around his waist with his backhand. Without waiting for everyone to react, Sasori threw the scroll into the sky with his backhand in front of everyone's eyes. The surgical seal in his hand suddenly squeezed, and the next moment it burst in front of everyone's eyes. One after another black shadows rose into the sky, like a group of demons dancing wildly. Sasori didn't pause, and opened the core of his chest with his backhand. Hundreds of chakra threads rose straight into the sky. When everyone reacted, the fog in the sky cleared, and the sight of the black puppets, the number of which made people feel stunned. Some puppet masters who call themselves Sunagakur Village and have good means almost split their eyes when they saw this scene. For them, it's nice to be able to play with one puppet, let alone two. That is already the level of Jonin. As for the ability to control 3 puppets at the same time, it is the elite Jonin. Like Granny Chio, who can control 10 puppets at the same time, can become the trump card of Sunagakur Village. However, now people are better than dead people. Looking at the puppets in the dark sky, there is a feeling that I can't even count them. Rasa, if you really want to compare the number of people, I don't mind showing you the power of my red secret skill, 100 machines. I used it to destroy a country, Sasori said indifferently. Looking at Rasa's stiff expression, he still said indifferently, as long as today, this little girl wants to level the Sunagakur village, we will never back down and let the Sunagakur village be wiped out from the ninja world. The small voice, at this moment, rolled back like a hurricane. Mention Rasa, Chio and other Sunagakur, even Pakura's face changed drastically. If, just a moment ago, facing 6's rank missing Nin, Rasa could still win by numbers. But now that the 300 puppets of Sasori of the Red Sand appeared, the situation was completely different. What's more, behind them, there is Konoha missing Ninuchiha Chinyu, who even the 5 major ninja villages should treat with caution. As soon as the 4-tailed beasts in his hand came out, once they really fought, it was really like the cruel words put down by Sasori of the Red Sand, completely erasing Sunagakur village from the territory of the ninja world. Feeling the sudden change of atmosphere in the field, Rasa's stiff cheek muscles twitched a little, and he said repeatedly, "Okay, very good, I didn't expect Sasori, you still have this kind of means, I didn't want to use the last trump card, this is you forced me. Bunpuku, not now, when will you be?" As soon as these words fell, the nerves of many people suddenly became tense. Oh, I didn't expect that things would eventually evolve to this point. This is the sin of the old man. The voice of the old man came out suddenly. In the history of Sunagakur village, this person who has been the Jinchuriki column force for the longest time can be said to know his name as long as he is Sunagakur. Originally, because of Sasori of the Red Sand, when the 300 puppets opened, their morale sank a little, and they instantly regained a fortune. After all, the tailed beast weapon is one of the killers of the 5 major ninja villages. For a time, with the appearance of Bunpuku, an inexplicable depression emerged in the atmosphere in the field. Like an invisible boulder, pressing on people's hearts makes people feel like they can't breathe. Haha, it turns out that the one-tailed Jinchuriki column force was hiding in the Sunagakur village. No wonder he couldn't find it after searching for so long. Kisame Hoshigaki smiled grimly, revealing Kiba teeth like a chainsaw, and the shark muscle in his hand went to his shoulders as soon as he smashed it. He smiled recklessly and said, "The boss is collecting tailed beasts, and this thing will serve as a gift for the next meeting." When the words fell, Deidara and the others, who had always feared that the world would not be in chaos, took the lead in showing a fighting stance. However, before they could get their hands dirty, Pakura walked out of the crowd. Sasori, you just said that this time you are here because of Chinyu's order. As long as I give an order, you will level the Sunagakure village. Pakura spoke suddenly. It can be said that these words tensed everyone's nerves. Facing this questioning, Sasori said with an indifferent expression, "That's right, this is the power that the boss gave you and you have today. What's more, we seem to have been underestimated during this period of time, and it is time to kill the chicken and warn the monkey." Having said that, Sasori of the Red Sand's eyes swept across the field, and his expression did not change at all because of the appearance of the tailed orc Jinchuriki column force. Perhaps, as the ghost shark said, the so-called Jinchuriki column force, in their eyes, is just a prey. No, Chinyu gave me the power to order you, but I don't want to see you hurt because of me, and I don't want to see the Sunagakure village destroyed today, no matter if I'm missing Nin or not. I also yearn for peace. Pakura said urgently. His eyes suddenly turned, fell on Rasa, and said in a deep voice, "I came back today, not to retaliate against Sunagakure village, nor to start a war. I just want to do one thing. As long as this thing is done, I will take the initiative to leave." Quote. "If you will believe me, I hope you will make way." The slightly long-sounding voice had a hint of dullness. Between the lines, there was no such aggressiveness to start a war, and the expressions of the Sunagakure who were tense in the field couldn't help but stagnate. Feeling the change in the atmosphere in the arena, Rasa's face changed drastically, and he shouted in a hurry, "You must not be fooled by her. Pakura is doing this just to make us paralyzed and relaxed. Once these missing nins find a flaw, they will absolutely kill us." Chapter 360 You Can't Bet. Everyone, I pledge in the name of the fourth generation of Kazekage. In this battle, I am willing to use my life to defend the safety of Sunagakure village, and I am extremely sure that Pakura has ulterior motives. Rasa growled anxiously. However, the words are not over yet. A slender body stood out in front of everyone's eyes. "I don't like war, I like peace, and I like the teacher, so I'm willing to believe in the teacher." A slightly weak voice came out of Maki's mouth. As Pakura's student, her statement was obviously like a chain reaction, and it was instantly detonated. "I grew up watching Xiaokang grow up, and I also believe in her character. I pursued Pakura, and of course I trusted my vision, so I chose to trust Pakura this time. It turns out that this guy like you also liked Pakura. No wonder there was no response to the love letter you sent at that time. Did you hide it on purpose? This time I also believe in Pakura." "I believe too." With the statement of the real tree, the human wall composed of thousands of people in the field detonated like a dike burst. The figures that walked out of the crowd quickly made Rasa's nerves tense to ultimate, and the secretly clenched fists in his sleeves cracked his phalanx. However, any unwillingness seemed extremely pale at this moment. No matter how gloomy Rasa's eyes are, unless he can kill people, he can't resist this chain reaction at all. Anbu Ninja, who was originally obedient, silently bowed his head and stood aside. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he gave way to the village square. Seeing this scene, Pakura's eyes were also slightly filled with yuhi, and hot tears wetted his eyes. After bowing deeply to everyone, a voice mixed with a little crying suddenly sounded. "Thank you for your trust. This time I, Pakura, came back to Sunagakure village, not for revenge. It's not about breaking any lies. I just want to tell some people with ulterior motives that I, Pakura, don't care about being a hero given by others, and I feel proud of being a missing nin." Speaking of this, Pakura suddenly raised his right hand, and the fiery chakra gathered in his palm frantically, forming a fiery fireball moment. Without any bells and whistles, in front of everyone, he slammed towards the hero statue in the square. Boom! The fireball instantly spanned a kilometer and hit the brand new statue head-on. The huge explosion impact force directly shattered the statue under the watchful eyes of the public. Accompanied by the sound of heavy objects hitting the ground, gravel splashed and scattered around. Pakura, which represented the honor of the hero of the past, was destroyed at this moment. No one could have imagined that it would be regarded as an honorary statue next to being Cage. In the end, it was destroyed by my own hands. If you don't see it with your own eyes, I'm afraid no one wants to believe that all this is true. Okay, Pakura, came back today. I have already done what I have to do. From this moment on, there will be no heroes in Sunagakure village, and I, Pakura, will also cut off my friendship with you. From now on, I will meet you again as a stranger. Pakura wiped the tears from his face and regained his usual arrogance. After looking around the field, he finally looked at Rasa and said, Rasa, you think too much. As you are now thinking about how to fight against Shinyu, I would like to tell you that you can do wrong and confuse right and wrong, but please don't bring Sunagakure village into danger. It can be said that in the face of Uchiha Shinyu, you can't afford to gamble, Sunagakure village can't afford to gamble, the 5 major ninja villages can't afford to gamble, and even the entire ninja world can't afford to gamble. The awe-inspiring voice has an undeniable taste. After dropping those words, Pakura didn't look at Rasa with a twisted expression, and suddenly reincarnated and left in front of everyone's eyes. Let's go. Looking at Pakura's back that waved and left gracefully, Kisame Hoshigaki smiled and put the shark muscle in his hand back on his back, and said, I thought that this time I would be able to make a riot this time. Much more. However, little girl, I agree with your last remark that you can't afford to gamble. I just gambled once and then fell into the pit. Hey, don't go too fast, wait for me. Hidan also ran after Yuhi's sickle, shouting. The rest of Deidara, Biwa-Juzo and others also quickly turned and left. For these lawless missing nin, since this battle can't be fought, there is no benefit to keeping it. For a time, on the huge battlefield, only Sasori of the red sand with the puppets was left. When he put the scroll back on his waist and put on his robe, he glanced at Rasa lightly and said, Rasa, you are still the same as before. In the same way, even a woman can't compare. Goodbye, I hope next time we meet, you don't do stupid things. Abandoning those words, Sasori walked out of existence without stopping. Sister. Ebizo landed on Chiyo's side and called out hastily. However, he soon saw Chiyo shaking his head. Forget it, let him go. Seeing him like this now can be considered as finding a group of like-minded people. I hope there will be a chance to meet next time. I'm also tired, and I don't care about other things. Sister, wait for me. Seeing that Chiyo was directly acting as the shopkeeper, Ebizo quickly chased after him. Goodness, goodness. Bunfuku also chanted the Buddha's name and walked away. Watching the departure of the 3 major forces, Rasa's expression became distorted, and there was a hint of gloom. Unfortunately, before he could react, the ninja that was forcibly summoned collapsed like a wave. Even his nominal fiancé had already slipped away. For a time, in such a huge situation, only Maki and other high-level executives were left. Rasa, who was in the cold for a moment, Maki couldn't help but put on a hard smile, and said bravely, Lord Cage, the 5 Shadows Conference is about to be held. If we don't start again, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up. Can't make it. Rasa couldn't help twitching in the corners of her eyes, looking back at Maki with a gloomy expression. This scene made Maki's heart pound a bit, and a bit of bitterness emerged. Soon, a hysterical growl came out of Rasa's mouth like a roar. It felt like lying down and getting shot. Looking at those high-level executives who were holding back laughter, there were 10 million grass and mud horses rushing through Maki's heart. If it wasn't in front of Rasa, I'm afraid I would point to the sky and scold God. Why am I the only one hurt? With Pakura's departure, the turmoil in Sunagakure village gradually subsided. The huge ninja world, many eyes, at this moment, invariably cast on the Konoha ninja village. The face of the 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, the personally restarted Five Shadows Conference has undoubtedly affected the nerves of the entire ninja world.